Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about UFC Atlanta, Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman, and my friends. It's going down this Saturday night live at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. We got the former champion Kamaru Usman taking on the emerging, streaking Joaquin Buckley. My friends, this is episode 600 of Half the Battle, so fasten your seatbelts because we got an incredible show with lots of surprises planned. So without further ado, let's get down to business. Main event of the evening in the welterweight division. We got the former champion Kamaru Usman. He's 20-4, taking on Joaquin Buckley, who's 21-6. Currently, they got it Joaquin Buckley minus 270. The comeback on Kamaru Usman is plus 230. So Usman's 38, Buckley is 31. Buckley's listed at 5'10". I think he's more like 5'8", 5'9". They got Usman listed at 6 feet. Both men have a 76-inch reach. And joining me to break down the UFC Atlanta main event is the man with the most finishes in UFC welterweight history. I'm talking about UFC legend Matt the Immortal Brown. Matt, welcome back to Half the Battle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Funny enough, they're fighting in Atlanta. My first UFC fight was the first UFC in Atlanta, so.
Oh, yeah. And you know, what's funny you say that. So you're mentioning your fight with Kim, but you have a lot of history in Georgia because I remember when you beat Douglas Lima in some dude's basement in Kennesaw, and that fight was unbelievable. You're the only man in MMA history to defeat both Lima brothers, but there's a specific reason I wanted you on to break down this main event. What do you think about these modern day welterweights? You got this kid Buckley. He's really on a serious run, taking on Usman, who once had that aura of invincibility, but it's been a minute. Just to put it in perspective, Matt, you've won a fight more recently than Kamaru Usman, and you've been retired for a hot minute. So what do you kind of think about this matchup?
Oh, damn, I kind of didn't really put that together, and Usman, I mean, he's I think he's got the potential to be one of the best ever, man. And when he was champion, I think there was a lot of us that kind of believed that he was going to be like the next GSP, and I think between his injuries and just the evolution of the sport, more and more high level athletes coming in, I think he hasn't quite lived up to that hype yet. So, but I'll tell you what, man, I think Usman's always dangerous. I think that's a solid bet. I don't know if I would put him in as an underdog in any fight in the welterweight division. So I think that's a solid bet, man. I might throw a little bit of cash on that. So, anytime Usman's an underdog, I think it's a good bet.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a game competitor. You saw that in that last fight with Chimaev. And it's funny because we were talking about auras of invincibility. Chimaev has a similar thing. So when Usman had, a little bit of success in that fight, I feel like people kind of overblew it and made it seem like, oh, that fight should have been a draw. Oh, Usman got robbed. I disagree. I thought that Chimaev won the majority of that fight, but Usman's such a competitor that, man, he fought really, really tough in that spot. What I've liked about Buckley is that obviously he's not some like 2-0 kid in the UFC getting this big step up in competition. This is a guy who's paid his dues at middleweight, dropped down to 170 pounds. Now he's kind of been on like a legend slaying world tour, right? He beat Luque. He knocked out Wonder Boy. He destroyed Colby Covington. So the next logical step up in competition is this shot against Kamaru Usman. And I think that Buckley's earned that opportunity. Also, man, I love this guy's sprawl. Like against Colby Covington, he's got a heavy sprawl. His volume is on point. But the thing about that is what I'm kind of worried about is deep in the fight, man. I think that deep in the fight, Usman's such a gamer. Like, I don't care if this guy walks down the stairs backwards or whatever the case is. Like, this guy, if he's still there, he's going to be trying his hardest. So that's what makes it interesting. Do you think Buckley can dish out enough damage to kind of make Kamaru a bit gun shy and questioning himself in there?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible, man. I mean, Buckley's definitely a game competitor all the time, and he's explosive and stronger than hell. Like you said, he does an amazing defense. The thing is, I do think Usman's a little bit more versatile than the other wrestlers that Buckley's dealt with. So I don't think it's just a sprawl is necessarily going to be enough to beat a guy like Usman. Like Usman could definitely like push him against the cage and take away the sprawling aspect and be able to do some other things. And like I said, Usman's always going to be in a fight. And I think it's certainly in Usman's best interest to take this deeper, into like the third round, and make this a grinding fight. Because, Buckley does have all those fast twitch muscles. Like, he's obviously a strong guy, and wear him down, just get his arms heavy and tired. That's not easy to do on Buckley, that's for sure. But I think that's definitely like going to be Usman's strategy.
Now, have you been impressed with the current form of Buckley and this run he's been on?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's looked great. Like you said, he's also, I don't know if I'd call him an up and comer, right? Because he's been around, like he's paid his dues. But he's kind of, his run has kind of been against the guys, these, can almost say like older necessarily, but, guys have been around and, already, been through battle enough times, their body's taking a toll, right? He's not really faced like some of the, I would have rather seen him against like an Ian Gary, maybe, or like a Shavkat, something like that, where, it's an up and coming hungry guy too. And I think Usman is a good test for him, but I don't like seeing guys go on runs against, older guys, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. Something interesting, just a little MMA trivia. Buckley has more professional fights than Usman. Isn't that crazy, man?
Interesting. Yeah. And probably not more UFC fights though, right? Just overall.
Yeah, overall. But I will say he does definitely have like towards like 15 UFC fights or so. He's not like, some spring chicken either.
For sure. For sure.
Big show. So I guess one more thing I wanted to know. So you mentioned, the first time the UFC came to Atlanta, you fought here. And that's not the only time you fought here. I saw when you handed Stephen Wonderboy Thompson his first L. I saw, your fight with Ellenberger. I even saw your fight in South Carolina against Court McGee. Is there any kind of difference fighting here in Atlanta in the South as opposed to anywhere else? Do you notice the difference with the crowd? Is it the same to you everywhere? Like, what's your experience like fighting in Atlanta?
I've had pretty good success and good luck in Atlanta. So I got to tell you, I like it personally. Yeah, great crowd, man. Great people. I mean, the South is known for their hospitality and it's always great people. But ultimately, look, no matter where you go in the world, it's a hotel and arena, and the cage is the same no matter where you go, excluding the Apex because they got the smaller cage, and the Apex just kind of sucks overall. So I won't even really talk about that. But when you're talking about the numbered UFC events, it's basically the same thing everywhere you go, keeping it real.
Yeah, I got you. And I'm just curious, man, how's life been, since you made that decision to hang up the gloves? Like we've seen all kinds of spectrums of retired fighters. I really hope for the best for the legend BJ Penn, one of my favorite fighters growing up. You see what's going on there. How's your transition to retirement been?
It's been great for me, man. I'm staying busy. I'm actually about twice as busy as I ever was when I was fighting. Kind of part of the motivation for retirement was like, man, I need to spend more time, just with my kids or with myself or whatever. And I'm actually busier now than I was then, but I do get to do more things with my kids now. So that's been great. But, ultimately I just been working on business like crazy. I'm growing my gym. We just opened our second location last month. Come to find out, like, business isn't that easy, right? It's a serious grind, man. And it's just another challenge. Just like fighting, it's just like I'm just in another fight. I'm trying to become champion of business now.
Nice. Now, I'm just curious about your take on the current state of the welterweight division with, guys like Jack Della, Sean Brady, Shavkat, Ian Gary, Carlos Prates, Buckley, Michael Morales. Like, what do you think about this new crop of talent at 170?
Man, just the UFC in general, every division has just got up and comers. Everybody in the world wants to be in the UFC, every single fighter in the world. So there's no shortage of savages, and the welterweight division just happens to be special where it's even more savages, man. And these guys that are I don't know, man, ranked 20, 30, they could be champions in other promotions, man. I mean, there's just a murderer's row from top to bottom.
Man, if you had to make a prediction, do you even foresee anyone? Do you predict anyone getting close to breaking your finish record at 170?
Well, I hope not. I mean, Luca could definitely still do it, right? He's only one away from tying me. So,
were you watching that last week when they put that on the screen?
Of course, yeah. Well, I wasn't actually watching, but a bunch of people sent it to me. So,
yeah.
But man, he's still dangerous everywhere. So I think he could still do it. Again, I hope he doesn't. So thank you to Kevin Holland for protecting for me. I don't know where he's at in his career, what he's thinking is next for him or whatever. But he's definitely right there on the tip of things. There's a lot of guys that could do it. It's just hard to say. Because there's a little bit of skill, there's a little bit of luck, there's a little bit of just not getting injured, a little bit of everything that comes with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone's going to do it, but if I had to like make a pick, I'd actually say Kevin Holland. Reason why is because he fights so often, man. Like, and now it seems like you saw those fights he had at 85 where he was just badly outsized. It seems like he was like, okay, I know what I got to do. And he's dialed in. He's at 70s now, and he's just taking fights back to back to back and getting finishes. So I think he's got a chance, but we'll see what happens. So Matt, before I get you out of here, I need a prediction. So who you got for the UFC Atlanta main event, Buckley or Usman?
Man, I'm going to go with Buckley. But I do think Usman is a good bet, though. Like, I think that's a solid bet because I could absolutely see him pulling up. I just don't know where he's at in his career and with his mindset, how much motivation he has at this point. He looked great against Hamzat. I think that was his last fight.
Yep.
And if he fights that good, I could definitely see him pulling it out. But if I've got a gun to my head and got to make a pick, Buckley's just on a tear and he's just looking tremendous and he's just explosive. And age-wise, I know he's not a ton younger than Usman, but I think physically he's a lot younger than Usman.
No, really well said. I think he's catching Usman at a great time. I'm going to take Buckley for that reason as well. Matt, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me right here, right now on Half the Battle for episode 600. It's an honor. The fans can follow you at I Am the Immortal. Any message for the fans before I get you out of here?
Always grateful to the fans, man. And I hope everybody just keeps following along, man, because my next journey after retirement is going to be bigger and better than anything I did in the UFC. So
nice.
We're not stopping. We're not slowing down. We're just not on TV beating people up anymore.
Yeah. Well, Matt, actually, one more thing before I get you out of here. Now that you're a retired fighter, I'm curious. Do you ever like go back and watch some of your classic fights? If so, do you have a favorite? I know for me, I'm sure all the fans can tell you about the Eric Silvas and the Robbie Lawler fights, but honestly, the fight that really got me on the Matt Brown train was the Pete Sell fight, because that fight introduced me to a new level of violence. So I want to thank you for that. Do you have a favorite fight of yours in the UFC?
Man, there's so many that I love, but if I just had to pick one, it had to have been Eric Silva, and not just because of the fight itself, which obviously it was a solid fight, but my whole family was there. There was more people at that event, more family at that event than at my family reunion, because it was a local fight and they all showed up. My kids came into the octagon after because I was the main event last fight. They came in and they got some pictures. Those types of things you just can't replicate, that's once in a lifetime stuff. So, but in terms of just the actual fight itself, minus all the extra stuff, it'd be Robbie Lawler, because I learned more from Robbie Lawler than any other fight in my life.
Love it, man. Well, thanks for giving us those fights, and thanks for taking the time, and best of luck with what you got coming up, man.
Thank you, my man.
Hey, man, that was UFC legend Matt Brown. Could y'all tell I was a little nervous? That guy really introduced me to a new level of violence. But back to this main event, I just simply think that Buckley is catching Usman at an incredible time. He's paid the requisite dues to earn this opportunity against Usman. And isn't that crazy? The little trivia that we've been talking about, that Matt Brown, who's been retired for a hot minute, has won a fight, not just more recently than Kamaru Usman, but like 2 years more recently than Kamaru Usman. The last time Usman won a fight was in 2021. Now, I want to say something. There's a big misconception, because a lot of fans weren't around back in the day, but a lot of people are saying that Kamaru Usman is the greatest welterweight of all time. And I think he's one of the greatest welterweights of all time, but he is not the greatest welterweight of all time. The greatest welterweight of all time is a man named George Rush St. Pierre. When you talk about Kamaru's title reign, Masvidal twice, Colby twice, Gilbert. I'm not trying to downplay those title defenses, but they do not at all compare to GSP's multiple title reigns. That being said, I just think that Buckley can meet him in the middle, be quicker, and obviously he's got a heavy sprawl, but like Matt Brown said, it might not just come down to sprawling, because Usman can get him against the cage. But I think against the cage, Buckley can swim for underhooks. He can circle, he can turn, he can separate. If he does get taken down, I think he's very hard to hold down. He's going to stiff arm that head, scoot himself back to the fence, wall walk, get back up. And from there, I think he's got a big speed advantage. And I have a lot of questions about Usman's current form, his confidence, because when you talk about guys like Matt Brown, win some, lose some, but Matt Brown is the immortal, can always come back. What's different about Usman is that Usman had that insane streak where he had that aura of invincibility, where people were talking like he was the GOAT, he can't lose. So when he finally does lose, and he doesn't just lose, he gets head kick knocked out where he's out stiff for 5 minutes straight. Well, he hasn't come back the same. Super gunshot in the turnaround fight against Leon the third time. And then the Hamzat fight, I just feel like people badly overblow Usman's success in the fight, because Chimaev also has that aura of invincibility. So anytime a moment happens against Chimaev in the fight, people are like, oh, he got exposed. It's like, guys, it's a fight. He's human. So with all that being said, I think Buckley's going to come out here, get the biggest win of his career, extend his legend slaying world tour, and possibly secure his first UFC title shot. I'm going Joaquin Buckley in the main event at UFC Atlanta. Co-main event of the evening in the flyweight division, we got the former champ Rose Namajunas. She's 13-7, taking on Miranda Maverick, who's 15-5. Currently, they got it Rose Namajunas minus 245. The comeback on Miranda Maverick is plus 210. So Rose Namajunas is 32. Miranda Maverick is 27. Rose is going to be 2 inches taller at 5'5". And Miranda Maverick is going to have a half-inch reach advantage at 65.5 inches. And joining me to break down the co-main event at UFC Atlanta is the man, Lucrative James Blissett. James, welcome back to Half the Battle.
Yo, thanks for having me on, brother. Happy to do this one. UFC Atlanta. We're back in your hometown. So I don't know if you're going. Let me know if you're going, because that'll be cool. I'm sure you're going to be there, bro, because I know you're a big fan. But happy to be on this special episode. And just before you go, I want to mention this is your 600th episode, which I'm sure that's going to be spoken a lot throughout the episode, but that doesn't matter. I wanted to speak about it personally because that is a great feat. Obviously, I make content myself. I started after you, so I don't have that many episodes of a podcast in the bank, but I know how hard it is, man. You know, I think I may hit like 100 or 200 on my own podcast specifically. And that is a grind in and of itself, bro. So first of all, just congratulations for hitting that. And it's kind of poetic that it happens on UFC Atlanta, man. So well done, brother.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the timing is obviously impeccable. Like this, you couldn't script something better. And what's also interesting, James, is that at UFC 201, when the UFC came to Atlanta, the main event was Robbie Lawler versus Tyron Woodley. This weekend, the main event is Buckley versus Usman. And the co-main event was Rose Namajunas versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. This time, the co-main event is Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick. Now, James, at UFC 201, I cashed a plus 215 on Karolina Kowalkiewicz against Rose Namajunas. I don't need a lot of convincing to take the dog. However, my gut tells me that Rose should get past this one. Can you convince me to take the underdog here?
I'm not going to convince you to take the underdog. So when I originally thought about this matchup, I saw the line, obviously the early line. Maverick's a big underdog. And I'm like, I'm similar to you, man. It's not hard for me to fade Rose because I see the failures in her game. But at the same time, man, I don't think there's a certain level you have to beat to beat Rose Namajunas at the end of the day, right? So let's just go through let's go through all of her recent losses, right? Erin Blanchfield in the last fight. Very, very close fight, 48-47. Couple of moments, Rose wins the fight. You could say a couple of moments, Erin runs away with the fight. That's also arguable. But
and in a 3-round fight, Rose wins the fight.
In a 3-round fight, she wins 29-28. And the round 4 was extremely close round. You know, if we go back and watch that fight, round 4 honestly could have went either way. I'd say 60-40. I won't say could have went either way because it's not 50-50, but it was an extremely close round. And even in round 5, the girl's defending takedowns. She's getting back up to her feet after being in a bad crucifix position. So she's still got that dog in her, in my opinion. She's still got that heart. She does fail when a going gets a little bit tough, I will say, but I still think she's a tough girl. The other loss is Manon Fiorot, right? Again, that was kind of competitive fight, man. It was a competitive fight. I believe that Rose broke her hand in that fight, and she still was swinging and, went to a competitive decision against the almost champion, right? She went to a 50-50 fight with Valentina. Carla Esparza in the worst fight of history. It's a fight that I don't count because no girl did anything. I don't even remember what happened because nothing happened. It's the same as the Ngannou versus Lewis fight. I don't count it. I'm not going to say, oh, look at Ngannou. He didn't throw strikes here. No, that's just not how he fights. It was an anomaly, just like the Esparza-Rose fight. And then you have to go all the way back to 2019 when she fought Jessica Andrade and got slammed on her head. And in the rematch, she won the fight. So it's like you have to be at a certain level. All the girls I mentioned were former champs or future champs, in my opinion. So you still have to be that level. And I don't think Miranda Maverick is that level. When I go back and watch Miranda Maverick fight, if she doesn't have the strength advantage over her opponent, she kind of gets tossed about, man. We saw in the Erin Blanchfield fight, she got tossed all over the octagon. And when Erin Blanchfield come up against Rose Namajunas, it was a very close fight, like I said. And MMA math is not always correct, but MMA math is correct to some degree when you speak about certain grappling scenarios, right? Like if somebody is just getting thrown about the octagon by someone, right? and then their opponent, who they're about to face on the weekend, has fought that same fighter and it was close in the wrestling, then you can kind of say more than likely they'll be a little bit stronger. They might be a little bit smarter in the wrestling. Like, it's not 1-on-1, but it's fairly close. And that's how I see this fight playing out. I think Miranda Maverick needs to pressure. To beat Rose, you need to pressure. You need to do what Blanchfield did. You need to do what Jessica Andrade did. You need to pressure her, break her will, break her down, test her cardio, take her down, grind on her. And Maverick doesn't really have that style. Most people think Maverick's a wrestler, but if you actually look at it, she's circling the octagon. She ain't pressuring forward. Yes, she's opportunistic with her takedowns, and I've cashed on her many times because of that. But I don't think she has the style to beat Rose. I feel like if Rose loses this fight, she's lost it herself. And I don't think it's going to be a Maverick, doing anything crazy to win. So my opinion is a 29-28 or even a 30-27 for Rose Namajunas.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rose gets off to a great start. It's just a matter of, can Miranda Maverick present that threat of the takedown to get Rose a bit gun shy? Then you start pinning her up against the fence. Then you finally do get that level change and then start diminishing the confidence of Rose a little bit. That would be the path. And then just as far as narratives are concerned, so Miranda Maverick moved to Colorado for a bit and trained with Rose Namajunas, and then she left and got this fight. So it was kind of like she went to go get Rose's secrets. And then once she got them, she's like, okay, now I'm ready to fight this girl. So it's kind of ridiculous to look at. But yeah, I mean, look, on the surface level, I just agree with you that Rose is just better across the board. And historically speaking, prime for prime, she's the better fighter here. It's just that I've seen Rose, like, sometimes Rose will look like the best fighter that's ever graced the octagon. Other times she won't even throw a punch for 25 minutes. So it's like, when we're talking about these odds, that's why I do have pause in laying chalk on Rose Namajunas. Although I do think she should probably win this fight. Her hands are faster. It's just, man, if Miranda starts getting on top of her, I can see Rose wilting. Maverick's also kind of, I don't know, there's like a certain umph missing about her game. Like, she doesn't put exclamation points on much. So yeah, it's a tough one, but I'll lean with Rose as well, my friend.
Yeah, you could make an argument. There's a few different ways to look at it as well. If you're on the Rose side, you can make an argument that if Rose loses this fight, it'll be the worst loss of her entire career. And if Miranda wins it, it'll be the best win of her entire career. Sure. Most certainly, it'll be the best win of Miranda's career. That's not debatable. Now, you could say that Karolina Kowalkiewicz, a similar price tag that you cashed on, which Miranda is this week. I guess those are comparable because Karolina, when she came into the UFC, I mean, I know she's a little bit washed now. Well, she's definitely washed now. But when she came into the UFC, she's going to decent fights with Joanna, young Jake. She came in with some hype right after beating Rose. So I would say that they're comparable losses. So it would be a big L in Rose's career if she loses. I will say, though, Miranda Maverick, a lot of the tape we have on her, she's a young girl, man. She's 27 years old. She's born in 1997. She's only 27 today, right? Whereas Miranda Maverick, in my head, she's 32. She's a veteran of the sport. She's done it. She's done it all in the sport, right? Outside of reaching.
You mean Rose is 32?
In my mind, Miranda Maverick is like 32 years old. I may have misspoken, but in my mind, Miranda should be like 31, 32. But she's only 27, right? So like a lot of these fights that we're speaking of, she's 24 years old. Like, she's a young girl, you know what I mean? She's growing, she's learning in the octagon. And as you said, Rose is 32. So like, she's on her way out to some degree. I don't think she's going to be doing the thing at 35, 36. So that means she's in her last 2-3 years, especially with Rose, feels like she's got a lot of miles on her for a 32-year-old girl. A lot of times the women are coming into their prime a little bit later at 32. I feel like her prime's been and gone. She's still a solid fighter. So maybe Miranda's catching her at the right time. At the end of the day, there's levels to the game, and I still do think Rose is a level above. That will get her the decision win.
Man, do you know what year Rose made her UFC debut, just off the top of your head?
Oh, what year? Damn, she was all the way back. I think it's like one of her first few fights, man. She fought Tisha, right? A long time ago. I don't know if that was the debut. I'm going to say, I'm not good at these type of questions. I know you do the trivia live all the time. And I'm like, don't ask me any trivia today, then. I'm not good at this shit. But I'm going to say 2011.
Close. So she was, let's see, was she fighting amateurs back in 2011? Yeah, she was fighting amateurs in 2011, but she made her UFC debut in 2014. Like, guys, like, this is 10 plus years ago we're talking about. And to take it a step further, James, she fought for a title in 2014 against Carla Esparza. It was the first ever women's title fight in that division. Carla Esparza chokes her out. And then they rematch for the belt like 10 years later. And it's like the worst fight. Well, it's not even a fight. They just like stared at each other for 25 minutes. It was ridiculous. But then other times you'll see Rose just have insanely fast hands. Sometimes do you remember that flying armbar she hit back in the day? Like from time to time, Rose will surprise you with some stuff. But yeah, I do agree with you that she is past her prime. Like 32 is young, but she's not 32 in fight years, right? We talk about it a lot. Your actual age compared to your fight mileage are two completely different things. And I agree with you that Rose is more like 35, 36, 37, possibly in her 40s fight wise. But I need to see Maverick presenting some kind of threat to Rose, right? Making Rose feel some kind of reason to get gun shy, because if Rose is a momentum based fighter, right? You give Rose a little bit of confidence and that'll snowball into something big. But you give Rose the opposite of confidence and that'll also snowball into something big. So it just depends what Maverick's going to bring here. And it's hard for me to predict, but I'm going to go with Rose as well. So we'll see what happens. But hey, for the fans, if y'all can convince me that this is a dog or pass situation, do so in the comments, please. Because like I said, the Carolina fight brings back incredible memories, but like where Carolina had success was in the clinch with Muay Thai knees to the body. She just got that Muay Thai clinch and Rose had no answer for it. I'm curious if Maverick can do similar things. That remains to be seen. Any parting words before I get you out of here, James?
No, that's it, man. Just reiterating my thoughts from the first message, which is congratulations, bro. Hope you have a good week. If you're going to the show, hope it's a great event with lots of knockouts, lots of submissions, and lots of tickets getting cashed.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, James. The fans can follow you at Lucrative James. Follow him on YouTube, on Twitter, IG, everywhere. And man, I look forward to Parlay Madness later this week.
Let's go. Peace, bro.
Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Edmen Shahbazyan. He's 14-5, taking on Andre Petroski, who's 13-3. Currently, they got it. Edmen Shahbazyan minus 190. The comeback on Andre Petroski is plus 165. Petroski's 34. Shahbazyan is only 27, which is crazy because he's been in the UFC a long ass time. Shahbazyan's 6'2". Petroski's 6 feet tall. Shahbazyan has a 2-inch reach advantage at 75 inches. And joining me to break down the featured bout is my man Narcocop Mike. Welcome back to Half the Battle.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Always love chopping it up with you here. And yeah, man, this big card for you. UFC Atlanta, your home stomping grounds there. So I know you're excited. When was the last time UFC was in Atlanta? I can't even remember.
So the last time UFC was in Atlanta was when Israel fought Kelvin and when Max fought Dustin the second time. So it's been a minute. That was UFC 236, and that was pre-pandemic. So yeah, it's been a hot minute, but they're finally back. And man, I'm really excited to talk about this middleweight fight with you because listen, I'm gonna be in attendance, so I know which outcome I want to happen, right? I want an Edmen Shahbazyan first round knockout. I want to see Edmen Shahbazyan come out here, stuff some takedowns, put some hands on this guy, and get him out of there. Why? Because historically speaking, anytime Edmen's been past round one, I know there's been an exception with the Dalcha fight, but I'm saying for the most part, anytime Edmen goes past round one, stuff gets super sketchy. And there's one thing we don't want to see in person, Narcocop, is lay and pray for rounds 2 and 3. So if Petroski's going to win, I'm trying to summon maybe some submission energy because I don't want to see any lay and pray in person, my friend.
Yeah, man. It's I broke this down, went very, very deep on tape on this today. And, you know, there's a couple of things I noticed on tape. One, Edmen Shahbazyan, when he's fresh early, extremely good takedown defense, like very good underhooks, sprawls. You know, when he's fresh, the guy has very good takedown defense. And the other thing with Edmen is I went back through all these fights. He's never lost a round one outside of Derek Brunson fight. And even in that fight, he actually won one of the judges' scorecards for round one. So what that tells me is when the guy is fresh, early, he's extremely dangerous. He has all the finishing upside early in this fight. I honestly think Petroski has no finishing upside. And, you know, as far as, you know, the submission defense, it's really good, man. He's been in a lot of very, very bad chokes. And somehow, some way, he gets out of all of these outside of the Mearshart one, right? Last time out. So, like, there's a couple of things that are very good for Edmen here. One, I don't think Petroski has like some elite cardio where he can shoot multiple takedowns, fail, and then continue to shoot. I think that's not the case here. You know, if you look at the Anthony Hernandez fight, Anthony Hernandez went for a ton of takedowns early, just failed and failed and failed. And Edmen punished him a lot in that fight. You know, he hurt him with a jab. He looked really good. But what does Anthony Hernandez do to most of the guys? He breaks them, right? I don't think that's the case with Petroski, honestly. I don't think this is a guy that can shoot 10 takedowns in round one, fail, and then continue to go. I think he's going to gas the same, if not more than Edmen, if that happens, right? So for me in this fight, it's like all Edmen Shahbazyan early and pre, because he has all the finishing upside early. I think he wins round one at a huge clip here early. And, you know, if he does tend to adrenaline dump or gas like he usually does, yeah, maybe Petroski can take over. I mean, that is in the cards here. But you know, Petroski has not really faced strikers, Dan. You know, the last striker he's faced, he got knocked out very early, and that was Michel Pereira. Like, you look at these guys he's faced, it's like grappler after grappler after. None of these guys are competent strikers, you know? So his chin is a big question mark. We know this. You know, when a hip knocks you out, you know, the chin is definitely a question mark, and he's facing a big hitter in Edmen. Edmen has big power. He's very fast, has very good striking. So for me, it's like the younger guy, the better striker, the guy that's going to win all the early minutes, the guy that has all the finishing equity early. I like Edmen Shahbazyan here early, man. Like, yes, I could potentially live bet out of this spot, but minus 179, which is what I got today. I think after one round, if he doesn't finish him, he's minus 500, literally. So, yeah, I like Edmen here. Like, I truly think it's a huge mismatch on the feet. And even if he gets taken down, I think Edmen has shown he can scramble back up easily. So, yes, is there a world where, you know, Petroski does the lay and pray, like you said, in rounds 2 and 3? Sure, there is that world. But Petroski also hasn't shown like he's very dangerous when he's on top. He loves to sit in half guard, and you know, we saw it against Fremd. Like, he didn't attempt to go for a finish, dude. Like, Fremd was like a fish out of water on his back, doing nothing, but no finishing. Like, it was just embarrassing, honestly. Even the Budka fight wasn't like, like, what are you doing, dude? Are you going to try to finish this fight?
It seems like he got so risk averse after those 2 stoppage losses. And I love the point you brought up about how, yeah, okay, he might be a wrestler, but he does not wrestle at the pace of someone like Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, which you need to break someone like Edmen, right? You can't, like, when you look at these numbers that Petroski's been putting up, I mean, it's abysmal, dude. 12 significant strikes in 3 rounds against Fremd, 23 significant strikes in 3 rounds against Budka. Now, the Rodolfo Vieira fight, you know, it wasn't a great fight, but it was a much better fight than those two. I mean, that Budka and that Fremd fight might literally be 2 of the worst fights I've ever seen in my life, and that's not hyperbole or exaggeration whatsoever. But, yeah, I mean, I think Petroski's going to try to get to that grind. I just think that he's going to get caught along the way, and Edmen's a world beater in that first round, man, and he brings such a danger factor. We know Petroski can be stopped. We know Petroski can be hurt, and I think that's going to be the case in Atlanta, Georgia, and I definitely hope that's the case. Like I said, I'm going to be in attendance. No one wants to watch lay and pray. No one wants to watch crotch sniffing. We want to see violence. We want to see blood. We want to see an Edmen Shahbazyan first-round knockout, and I think that's what's going to happen, Mike.
Yeah, one more stat on the way out. Edmen Shahbazyan, 5-1 outside of the apex in big cages. 2-4 in the apex in small cages. So, hey, listen, it's not a big sample size, but I think that's a telling thing for a guy, a striker that probably wants to manage distance and stuff like that.
Wow, that's a great stat right there. And if you want to add to it, wasn't his Darren Stewart fight at the Apex too when stuff got a little sketchy? So
I believe it was in that tough whatever, which is similar.
Oh, the tough house. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no Apex back then, I guess.
Basically, it was not in front of a crowd, is what we're saying here. Yeah. So man, maybe that's such a good point. I never even thought about that. Maybe Shahbazyan is just a dude that feeds off the crowd. He just does better when the lights are brightest. In that sense, right? Yeah, that's interesting. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we're both going Shahbazyan. Mike, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me right here, right now on Half the Battle for UFC Atlanta and episode 600 of Half the Battle. The fans can follow you at Narcocop, and make sure you all check out the Lambo Plays podcast every Friday. I'm a big fan of it.
Appreciate you very much, Dan. Love your podcast. Keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, enjoy the card, man. That's the thing. You're going out there, and I hope you enjoy that card.
Thank you, my friend. Let's get it this weekend, and appreciate the time. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Cody Garbrandt. He's 14-6, taking on Raoni Barcelos, who's 19-5. Currently, they got it. Raoni Barcelos -210. The comeback on Cody Garbrandt is +180. Raoni Barcelos is 38 years old. Cody Garbrandt is 33 years old. Raoni Barcelos is going to have a 67-inch reach to Cody Garbrandt's 65.5-inch reach. And they got Cody Garbrandt listed at 5'8", Barcelos at 5'7". And joining me to break down this bantamweight matchup is the host of the Club and Sub podcast. I'm talking about John Stargaryan. John, welcome back to Half the Battle.
Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate you having me on here. I'm excited to break this down.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Let's get down to business because listen, Cody Garbrandt, I mean, that performance against Dominic Cruz, a lot of people regard it as one of the best performances of all time, but I know some of us kind of view it a little bit differently. Like, look, I love knockdowns. I love when he does the robot. It's fun to watch all this stuff, but like when you actually sit down and look at the numbers, you know, he landed less than 70 significant strikes in 5 rounds. And that fight that Raoni had with Victor, I mean, they were like attempting like 300 strikes in 3 rounds. So the pace difference is something serious. But John, you know what else is serious? Raoni is almost 40 years old. How do you see this going down?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you brought up a couple of like key points about the fight. Because I think at this point, like the secret's kind of out with Cody Garbrandt in terms of his volume. You know, well, with his chin, it's been out for years. But you know, you look at the way this guy strikes. I mean, he fought Trevin Jones, 2 fights ago and landed 26 significant strikes in 15 minutes. He's just very, very low volume unless you engage him directly in the pocket and, you know, bite down and swing down with him, in which case he's happy to, you know, lose his mind and do it back with you. But yeah, I mean, Cody's clearly towards the end of his career in the UFC. I mean, he's got stuff going on outside the cage. He hasn't won. I think he's only won 3 fights since 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, he's fighting a guy in Raoni Barcelos who is very old and also clearly on his way out in the UFC. But like Raoni, unlike Cody Garbrandt, is almost the polar opposite. You know, the guy is constantly bringing a pace, you know, on the feet. He wants to get in your face, throw hands, a lot of boxing, throws heavy, and he's a really good wrestler. So based on that alone, you would think, you know, Raoni being a decent sized favorite makes sense. And, you know, the market is certainly reflecting that at -210 right now. I'll say this, though. I do think it's a bit more complicated than that when it comes to this fight, because like Raoni, yeah, I think there's a lot of recency bias built in to a degree with the fact that, you know, Cody got taken down by Fig, held down, passed, and then eventually submitted. It looked really, really bad. But I also think if you look at like the preponderance of Garbrandt's tape, he's a really good defensive wrestler and historically a pretty good scrambler. And like Figgy, you know, Figgy's not the best defensive grappler, but he's a pretty damn good grappler when he gets the top position. And so I think there's this assumption that, you know, Raoni can just easily get takedowns and dominate on the mat. Now, maybe he can dominate on the mat. It wouldn't shock me. I don't think takedowns are going to be all that easy, though. I think if he really comes out pushing it, maybe he'll get 1 to 2, and maybe that's enough. But I'm not sure. I'm just not ready to say off that one performance when we have an entire career that says otherwise that Cody is this fish on the mat. On the feet, I mean, look, I favor Raoni because he's busier and he hits hard himself, and Cody's chin is obviously dust. But I do think it's worth keeping in mind that Cody does have big power, and his power historically has suppressed volume from his opponents quite a bit. So it wouldn't shock me if Raoni is a bit more tentative than he normally is. And it's also worth keeping in mind that Cody is going to be much, much faster than Raoni. You know, he's faster than just about everybody he fights with his hands. And, you know, it's the kind of thing where if his power suppresses Raoni's aggression at all, this could just turn into a messy, you know, point fighty type of fight. And if it's not, and Raoni's like, I'm going to go into the fire with him, well, Raoni might knock him out, but Raoni's durability is pretty clearly declining itself, in my opinion. And he's fighting a guy with real power in Garbrandt, perhaps even to this day, maybe the most power in the division. And so, like, if they bite down and swing, like, yeah, Raoni can win that battle. I mean, Cody surely can't take many hard shots these days, but Raoni could also lose that battle. So I guess I look at the fight and I feel, yeah, Raoni, moderate favorite, makes sense. You know, he's the busier fighter. He's got more grappling upside. But I can't get to like big favorite Raoni or easily Raoni because I don't think takedowns will be easy. And I think Cody's faster and has the ability to knock him out here. Plus, Raoni's 38 and Cody's 33. I mean, that matters.
100%. And I mean, Cody's got a D1 wrestling background. I think people forget about it. Now, the reason that you haven't seen that wrestling, it's kind of been few and far between. I mean, don't get me wrong, in that Trevin Jones fight, Cody had a very nice slam in that fight, but like after the Cruz fight, you know, he had to go to Europe to get those back injections, had the back surgery, and you've just kind of seen a bit of a stiffness from Cody Garbrandt. And I mean, don't get me wrong, even in that Figgy fight, people just talk about the grappling, but dude, Cody's hands look super fast in that fight, especially in the early going. Now with Raoni, you know, we talk about Cody being a D1 wrestler. Raoni's got real grappling credentials too. I mean, Brazilian national wrestling champ, and he's a black belt under his dad, who's a Corral belt, which means that this dude, you got to be like a 7th or 8th degree black belt to get your Corral belt, meaning you got to be a black belt for like 40 years, meaning there's a chance that I never get my Corral belt. You know what I'm saying? So like to have those kind of grappling credentials is just unbelievable. He's also very well rounded, good hands. But I think the thing that might be the equalizer, I mean, depending if Raoni's done his homework or not, which I assume he has, is the calf kicks, right? Yeah. You look at that fight with Pedro Munoz and Cody Garbrandt, and why did Cody Garbrandt go full you-know-what in that fight? Yeah. It wasn't because he got caught a couple times on the chin and got mad. It's actually because his leg was about to give out. It was about to get to a point where he had to make a choice. Like his leg's going to give out. It's either go try to take Pedro Munoz's head off or you're not going to be able to walk anymore type ordeal. And in that process, he got caught. Now, I still think he's very dangerous. I agree with you that Raoni's durability is declining. And I also felt like in that last fight against Peyton Talbot, first of all, I think Peyton will be back, and I hope that people think he got exposed and this and that. He's a 25-year-old kid, okay? But Peyton doesn't have D1 wrestling credentials, right? So that's what makes it so intriguing to me. I mean, I do favor Raoni for the pace and the calf kicks, but I mean, I'm going to be in attendance, and if you tell me right now that the outcome is a Cody Garbrandt knockout, am I going to act surprised? No, I'm not. So yeah, pure pick, I'm going to go Raoni, but I think it has the chance to surprise a lot of people, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think the calf kicks, actually, it's a good point. And it's actually something I said to my co-host, Danny Lags, when he was talking about Raoni.
Hey, shout out your co-host. I don't know if you know this. You know, I met him in Florida once, right?
I did. He said it was a blast.
Yeah.
him and Gambas, right?
Yeah, shout out Gambas.
I was like, the best thing Raoni could do here, I feel like, is just stay on the outside and just teep and kick. Because, like, Cody's not going to throw hands if you just stay out of punching range and kick. He'll kind of just let you play that game. But Raoni likes to mix it up, though. So I guess we'll see.
Yes, sir. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Cody Brundage, he's 11-6, taking on Mansur Abdul Malik, who's 8-0. Currently, they got it Mansur Abdul Malik minus 800. The comeback on Cody Brundage is plus 550. So Cody Brundage is 31 years old. Mansur is 27. Mansur is 6'2". Cody Brundage is 6 feet tall, and Mansur has an almost 80-inch reach at 79.5 compared to Cody Brundage's 72-inch reach. And joining me to break down this middleweight matchup is the man himself, Nick Kalikas. Nick, welcome back to Half the Battle.
Thanks for having me, man. Pleasure to be here, and congrats on number 600. That's crazy. You know what? You've been around a long, long time, and much respect. You're still grinding, still doing your thing. So have to take my hat off to you, man. Congrats.
Hey, thank you so much. And I mean, there's been people that came before me, and I'm sitting next to one of them right here, right now on Half the Battle. And it's an honor. And it's also a further honor to be able to talk about this fight because, look, I know the odds are what they are. It is what it is. But just in terms of pure picks, in terms of analyzing fights and whatnot, I got to keep it 100 with you, Nick. This fight has my favorite middleweight prospect in the sport. And on this card, we also have my favorite bantamweight prospect. And even though they're massive favorites, just so early into their UFC careers, I really see these two guys being not just top 15 guys, not just top 10 guys. I think Mansur could be a future top 5 guy because, Nick, think about this, man. Like, you know, you see a guy like Francis Ngannou, incredible knockout power, but like, you know, when he first came to the UFC, that wrestling was, you know, it could have got exposed. It did get exposed by Stipe and whatnot, but like, what you have in Mansur is like, he looks like Ngannou, he hits like Ngannou, but he has a D1 wrestling background. And then you hear him talk, he's highly intelligent. Like, this guy literally has everything I want in a prospect. And I think he's a future top 5 guy. And all respect to Brundage, because I think UFC experience counts for so much, and he's got that in spades. And that's the advantage he's going to have over Mansur. But man, Mansur's level of confidence, like I said, you hear him talk. He's highly intelligent. I think he's going to come out here. I think it's going to be a destruction like the odds indicate, Nick.
Yeah, it's hard not to agree with you here. I mean, he is a serious prospect. That knockout power that he possesses too, it is scary. It kind of reminds you of Ngannou. You're right, absolutely. And Brundage on the other side of things, he's had some quality wins in the UFC, pulled off some surprises here and there. So he's a solid guy, has that wrestling background. It's not going to be an easy fight. I kind of like this test because again, Brundage is one of those guys that can kind of come in there and play spoiler at times, but I don't think he does here. I mean, I think Brundage does get outclassed, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, for me, Malik is one of those guys that you want to see probably get tested enough in a 3-round war. I don't know if we're going to get to see that soon. It depends. When he gets that step up in competition, we're really going to see. But I want to see him test in deep waters, maybe end up getting a main event here sooner than later. I know, again, it's the beginning stages of his career, so we got a long way to go. But I like the prospect. As far as, obviously, he's going to be the pick for me, but you can't touch his betting line. You got to leave it alone. It's not even tempting to go Brundage, to be honest with you.
I mean, it's just like a beautiful thing that these are the prospects we get in 2025, because I know you've been around a long time. So I know you remember when Alan Belcher and Patrick Cote and Dennis Kang were the top middleweight prospects. So, you know, usually when you get like a D1 wrestler, okay, now the striking has to catch up and, you know, it's like there's something missing. Like, I think the only thing missing from Mansur is just the experience. Like, you guys, literally everything I want. I'm just like, I really think this is a future top 5 guy. And I don't say that about just anybody. So he stood out to me. I mean, did you see that ground and pound knockout he had on his regional scene? Like, oh my God, that was devastating. Then that Contender Series fight, he was in there with a credentialed wrestler and like just the confidence to scramble with anybody, to strike with anybody. Like, so I guess if you had to say a weakness in Mansur's game, maybe he's overconfident, right? Like, because I've seen him get dropped in fights, and I don't think it's because he's chinny. I think it's because he believes in himself so much that he doesn't care who you are, what your background is. Like, he's gonna go right after you in every facet of MMA, and that's why he has the undefeated record. But that's also why he's gotten hurt in spots.
Yeah, his aggression, of course, is going to lead to openings defensively for sure. And there's some of that floating around on Twitter I saw as well on social media where clips of him getting dropped in the fights. But again, you know what? It doesn't matter. He recovered well. And like you said, hopefully he can tighten up that defense a little bit and, pick his spots a little bit more carefully. But that's a flaw. You can pretty much say almost every fighter that's aggressive in the UFC that likes to stand and bang as well. So, yeah, I think, those spots will probably get some dog action coming in Brundage way. Like the social media has an impact a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of people kind of coming in and betting Brundage as a huge dog like this overall. But, yeah, make no mistake. I think it's kind of a waste of money here in this spot. Should be Malik's fight.
Look, Brundage is dangerous, man. I mean, he's knocked guys out. Like, I remember when he knocked out Tresean Gore. Tresean Gore wasn't experienced enough for Brundage. And, he's had guillotines in the past, and also that last fight against Marquez. I know there was the mouthpiece gate where Brundage gets rocked, spits out his mouthpiece, the ref steps in, gives him back his mouthpiece, then he finishes Marquez. So it was one of those situations where they run it 10 times. There are going to be some instances where Marquez gets that win, but I don't want to take anything away from Brundage because even though he's had some very embarrassing setbacks, he's still a guy that's been paying dues. He's still a guy that keeps showing up, and from time to time he's going to surprise you. So I do think with what I talked about, the biggest weakness of Mansur Abdul Malik is his overconfidence, but the biggest weakness of Brundage is the opposite of that. It's he's got skills everywhere across the board. He just doesn't believe in himself, and I think the belief is going to be possibly the big difference here, in addition to the physical attributes.
That probably is a good call. If you're looking at Brundage, again, he does have all the tools, man. I mean, he just has to get a little bit more consistent. Again, it's probably that belief in that mental game that's kind of holding him back a little bit too. So again, dude, this is a big time spot for Brundage. I mean, he's got nothing to lose coming in here, right? I mean, look at the betting line. Nobody expects him to win this fight. So some fighters will take this and kind of run with it and just go out there and give it their all and see what happens. So that's kind of mindset he should have here in this spot. But still, man, it should be, like I said, look at the betting line, look with the matchup here. Look, the UFC is doing it. Like I said, I like the matchup because this is a good step up in the right direction. Again, they just keep on stepping him up correctly. He'll probably, sneak his way into the top 5, top 10 eventually if they match him up correctly, right? I think that's a very good possibility for him.
Now, next up in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Alonzo Menifield. He's 16-5-1, taking on Oumar Sy, who is 11-0. And currently, they got it Oumar Sy -650. The comeback on Alonzo Menifield is +475. So Oumar Sy, he's 6'4". He's 4 inches taller than Alonzo Menifield. He's also 29 years old, so he's going to be 8 years younger. And in addition to that, he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage in this spot. And joining me to break down the next two light heavyweight contests is my boy, Madi Wizz MMA. Madi, welcome back to Half the Battle.
My brother, Dan, it's always a pleasure shooting a video with you, and thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
No, the honor is mine, especially for episode 600. So let's get right down to business, because Oumar Sy taking on Menifield. You see these wide lines, and I mean, you know for a fact that Sy is a promising prospect. He's probably one of the better French prospects that we've seen in a hot minute. And if you compare him to, say, Julius Walker, who I got a lot of respect for, you know, Menifield's last opponent seems like a really good kid, but Walker came into the UFC 6-0, and he still almost got past Menifield. He just wasn't quite seasoned enough, wasn't quite experienced enough. You think this kid Sy is going to be right at the level necessary to surpass the test that is Alonzo Menifield, like these almost -700 odds imply?
You know, there's a couple things to consider here. I mean, obviously, the first thing that I want to bring up here is that it's a striker versus grappler, or not even grappler, striker versus wrestler matchup here. And Oumar Sy does have some jiu-jitsu too, so I guess we'll give him the grappling. Now, Alonzo Menifield on the feet can knock anybody out. I mean, it is 205 at the end of the day. Regardless of who the fighter is, we tend to say that anybody can knock anybody out once you get that heavy. But Menifield specifically has shown power in his hands, and more recently, he's been able to carry power throughout at least 2 rounds. It hasn't quite been a round and a half like we've been used to, or 1 round of gas and then he falls off a cliff. So he's live to knock anybody out on the feet. Now, I think that he just hasn't really faced the best of wrestlers, and that's why his takedown defense percentage is that high. I believe it's closer to 73 or 74%.
Talking about Menifield?
Menifield, yes.
Dude, it's 78. It's almost 80%.
Yeah, and I just don't think he's faced the greatest of wrestlers. And when you go back and you see the first Jimmy Crute matchup, if I'm remembering correctly, he landed 6 takedowns on him in that fight. And Jimmy Crute, I do not rate as the highest level of wrestlers out there. And not saying that Oumar Sy's wrestling is the greatest, but he has proven to be able to go to it time and time again and rely on it. And his jiu-jitsu does the job. He's able to control guys on the ground for extended periods of time and find the finish on the mat. Now, is that any surprise now that the line is blowing up to close to 500, -600 even in some spots?
-700 in some spots.
Oof, okay. Even wider now. I personally think that Oumar is going to have to weather the storm for the first couple of minutes, but once he lands that first takedown, I think it's all downhill there for Alonzo. I think the gas tank is going to start wearing out a little bit more. It's a little bit different when you're striking and gassing out versus grappling and gassing out when you're not used to grappling. So I think Oumar should do the job here and get this done under 1.5 rounds.
Wow. So I love it because Madi's predicting violence in Atlanta. I don't want to see any leg humping. I don't want to hear the crowd boo. I want to see violence. And if it's under 1.5, that's music to my ears. And I actually am very surprised that my boy Madi is questioning that 78% takedown defense stat by Alonzo Menifield, which I got to say has been compiled off almost a 10-year sample size, because his first Contender Series appearance was in 2017, Madi. You know, we're approaching the 10-year mark. He's one of these guys like Kennedy and Zechiku, his teammate, that had to do more than one appearance on Contender Series before he finally got the call. So that's why when I see that Menifield's already 37, I'm like, oh my God, time flies. Because I remember when Menifield was the guy in his 20s, you know, just coming into the UFC, and wow, oh my God, time flies. But yeah, Menifield, like you said, that power does carry late. And I think a great example of that is that Jacoby fight. I mean, if we're just talking minutes, Jacoby won like what, 13 minutes of that fight, but it didn't matter because Menifield got those 2 big key moments that swayed the decision in his favor, even if Jacoby won the majority of that fight. So with Sy, I'm glad that he's where he's at now. to get this test. Because I feel like if it was a few fights ago, I don't know if he would have been ready. But that last fight against Dawoon Jung was a huge step in the right direction. Like, C went out there and he tested his stand-up first before he got to his grappling. And the thing about that is, man, Dawoon Jung at one point, that dude was like on a 5-fight win streak, knocked out Kennedy and Nzechukwu. And once he got to that fight with Dustin Jacoby, he was just never the same ever again. But it was a big step in the right direction for Oumar Sy to, go those 3 rounds and, do what he did. So now he gets this step up in competition against Menifield. Man, I think the size is going to be a huge factor. And I also think that Menifield's gas tank is a bit suspect, especially lately. So I agree with you, man. I don't know if it's going to be a sub. I don't know if it's going to be a knockout. I think both are on the table, but I do think it's going to be an Oumar Sy finish. And I'm hoping for violence in Atlanta. Now, next up in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Paul Craig, he's 17-9-1, taking on Rodolfo Bellato, who's 12-2-1. Currently, they got it Rodolfo Bellato minus 350. The comeback on Paul Craig is plus 285. So Paul Craig, also 37 years old, like Alonzo Menifield. Rodolfo Bellato, 29 years old. Bellato only a inch and a half reach advantage. They're both 6'3". Both guys are jiu-jitsu black belts, but man, there's black belts and then there's black belts. So I heard a rumor that Rodolfo Bellato is a black belt under the Nogueira brothers. Do you know off the top of your head if that's true or not? That's what I heard.
No idea when it comes to that.
So the fans, let us know if that's true about Rodolfo Bellato being a black belt under the Nogueira brothers. That's what I've been told. Paul Craig, on the other hand, I mean, when you talk about submission finishes, I mean, this guy finished the current UFC light heavyweight champion, Magomed Ankalaev, finished the former champion, Jamal Hill, finished top 5 contender, Nikita Krylov, finished current top 15 heavyweight, Kennedy and Nzechukwu, all by submission. So, I mean, this guy is as potent as they get on the ground. And to make a triangle heavy style work at the highest level, I mean, wow, he's truly an anomaly. It's just unfortunate for him that now he's getting to that age where people have kind of figured him out. He hasn't rounded out his game. There's not much of a threat anywhere else, which is unfortunate because Bellato is kind of a marauder. Like, he's a Brazilian banger. He goes in the pocket, overhand rights, the left hooks, big calf kicks, and he's definitely very hittable. It's just unfortunate that from my perspective on the feet, Paul Craig can't really take advantage of that. But if you watch that Jimmy Crute fight, in the first minute, Rodolfo tried to do a little lat drop on him, and he ended up getting he ended up putting himself in full mount, right? Now, he was able to escape because of his, his grappling credentials are on point. Like I said, Nogueira black belt, but it's like, you don't want a guy like Paul Craig on top of you, whether it's early, late, no matter when the case is. Like, if your whole thing is to put yourself in bad spots and scramble out of them, I love it. Just like, don't do that against Paul Craig. But what I do think Bellato can have a lot of success with, Madi, is the calf kick. I think that's going to be his big weapon here, right? Just keep this standing. Don't go too crazy to where you can leave yourself open for the level change. Chop him down to where now Paul Craig is flopping to his back. Now you have to tell him to get back up. And from there, I think it goes downhill, and I think Bellato takes over and eventually gets a finish.
Initially, when this fight was first booked, I had I would say not so strong, but I definitely lean towards Paul Craig in this matchup for multiple reasons. I mean, both guys are the same exact size. So nobody has the reach or length advantage, and that's something that I like to look for against a guy like Paul Craig if I'm trying to fade him. Because if you have that length advantage against Paul Craig, you just keep him at bay, similar to how Bo Nickel did in his last fight. He was just jabbing him over and over again. The purpose of it is so Paul Craig doesn't wrap you up and try to pull guard, which I do see as still I do think there's potential for that in this matchup. Because Bellato loves to get up close, and he almost his striking reminds me of Marc-Andre Barrios a little bit, because he does like to dig those short uppercuts in the clinch. And I do think the clinch might give him some trouble here with Paul Craig if he tries to pull guard. But ultimately, after retaping, I do think that Bellato's aggressive style will give Paul Craig trouble. And the calf kick, like you mentioned, I think it's going to really affect Paul Craig and slow him down. Now, if this fight does hit the mat at any point, I think Bellato is going to be in big trouble. That's no surprise to anyone. But in one of the matchups against Ihor Potieria, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Potieria had him in a triangle, was it? I haven't retaped that fight specifically just yet. But if I'm remembering correctly, it was a triangle in the second round. He had it for like a minute or so. Anyways, I just think that Paul Craig is the much better jiu-jitsu player in this matchup. So I just don't think Bellato should try and get up close too much and just keep this at bay, keep calf kicking Paul Craig. I think this fight tends to go over 1.5 as compared to the last light heavyweight matchup we were talking about, because I think Bellato is going to try and just calf kick and jab for the first round until he catches his rhythm. And once Paul Craig starts to tire out, then he'll probably take advantage and find the knockout. So I think it's Rodolfo Bellato by late knockout, either late round 2 or round 3 for me.
So off the top of my head, I don't remember Poteria putting him in a triangle, but what I do remember is Poteria absolutely teeing off on him in that first round with vicious ground and pound. I don't know how that fight wasn't stopped, and I don't know how Bellato survived it, let alone survived it to come back and win via finish. Like, wow, Bellato, he's got the heart of a lion, man. I mean, only one man's beat this guy. Vitor Petrino beat him twice. That's it. And he's never lost another fight besides that, which is crazy because it seems like he's probably been knocked out a bunch of times, but I guess that's not the case. Now, talk to me in 5 years and we'll see if that's the case. But right now, it's not the case. Now, Madi, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me right here, right now, and Half the Battle. The fans can follow you at Wizz MMA. Any message for the fans?
Just thank you all for the continued support, and thank you all for the new followers. We've been gaining some traction over the past few months, and we're having a really good year, up close to 28 units now on the year, and continuing in my own coaching and my own training as well. So just happy to be here, and thank you again, Dan, for having me on such a big show.
Oh, of course, and you love to see it. Keep up the great work, my man. Next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Michael Chiesa. He's 18-7, taking on Court McGee, who's 22-13. Currently, they got it. Michael Chiesa minus 350. The comeback on Court McGee is plus 285. Court McGee is 40 years old. Michael Chiesa is 37 years old. Chiesa is 6'1". McGee is 5'11". Both men have a 75.5-inch reach. So, man, you got two Ultimate Fighter winners going at it. And this is really interesting, John, because I feel like prime for prime. I mean, it's not even close. Chiesa wins just on the merit that, like, look, I don't know what it is. Like, I watched Chiesa stand up. I have no idea how he was ranked in two separate divisions. Like, but like anytime I say certain things about Chiesa, like, dude, what's he going to do to Beneil Dariush, right? And then he chokes out Beneil Dariush. Hey, John, what's Chiesa going to do to a prime RDA? And then he grapple fucks RDA, like, and makes it to a top 5 spot at 170. So, like, for being a one-dimensional guy, he's really defied logic. Like I said, top 15 in the two of the most stacked weight classes in the history of the sport. That speaks volumes to the kind of competitor he is. And Court McGee, I mean, dude, he's been in the UFC like 15 years, John. And I got to admit, I thought this guy was on his way out. I still do. I mean, he was born in 84, but like I laid minus 300 straight on Alex Morano, right? And he gave me a sweat. I thought he was so done that I'm going to go lay minus 300 on Morano. He gave me a sweat. So then the next fight with Means, look, I didn't bet Means, but I picked Means. And like Court ran through him in a way that like Court hasn't done. And I'm not exaggerating, in 15 years, John, he looked like he found the fountain of youth as well. Look, in theory, I feel like if Court can stuff some takedowns, this might literally get interesting. It's just like I said to you, the first thing I said, prime for prime. Chiesa, you know, has historically always been a higher ranked fighter, beat better guys. So like, I think he's favored for that reason. And he's also choked guys out that have never been choked out, like Beneil, like Max Griffin. So that could happen
too, right?
Who? Sorry?
Masvidal too, right?
No, he dropped Masvidal, and then Masvidal choked him out with a Darce.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. But dude, the way he dropped Masvidal, I'm glad you brought that fight up. Like, he floored Masvidal hard. So that actually makes me think, because I was talking about how Chiesa's heavy on top, and you know his chokes are good, but like he's got some vicious ground and pound that is a little underrated. And yeah, that's definitely something to note. So what do you kind of think about this fight, especially with their current form, their ages, what Court McGee just did in his last fight, the odds? I mean, there's a lot to digest here.
I think it's a fight I would have liked to see 3 or 4 years ago, most, you know, to be honest, just because I feel I don't want to say I feel very strongly that Chiesa is going to dominate this fight, but that's like your feeling about McGee being on the way out. And Mike Chiesa might be as well, but that's more or less my feeling as well. Like, it was very impressive the way he dominated Tim Means, but let's be honest, Tim Means hasn't been the dirty bird in like 3 or 4 years. You know, it's been a while. And prior to that, it's like, yeah, he beat Morono or didn't beat Morono. He fought Morono close, but look what Alex Morono has done in the time since. He's looked shot himself, you know? And then prior to that, he got knocked out in the first round 2 fights in a row. I mean, obviously, in recent years, McGee's done pretty well with grapplers. You know, obviously, he beat up Claudio Silva pretty bad, but, you know, Claudio was probably never as good as, you know, some thought he was to begin with. And, you know, pretty gassy. And if he couldn't get his game going, was always kind of going to be a victim. Same thing with Ramiz Brahimaj, you know, beat him up pretty bad. But, like, again, it's Ramiz Brahimaj. I know he's now 4-3 in the UFC, but, like, let's be honest, Ramiz Brahimaj is not Mike Chiesa. Like, if he can keep the standing or he can have clinch success with Chiesa, like, yeah, he can win this fight. You know, McGee obviously known for pace, you know, known for doing pretty well in the clinch, but I don't know, man. I just can't picture it. Like, I saw someone today mention that, you know, Brady had trouble grappling McGee, and it's like, yeah, but that fight was before COVID. You know, he's 40 years old now, and to me, yeah, prime for prime, like you said, Chiesa was better, but also Chiesa's had real success against quality competition in like recent months and years, whereas Court McGee has just been fighting like the dregs of welterweight. And I guess I look at this fight and I'm like, yeah, you know, maybe McGee can pressure him, outbox him or whatever, but Chiesa low key, I don't want to say he's a good striker. I feel like that would be being disrespectful. It's like really good strikers, but he blends, he like the way he's designed his striking is actually like really effective. Like, he will not engage, you know, it's outside 1-2, 1-2 until he can find a spot for a takedown. And that's really all he does. Would it surprise you if he's just more agile and faster at this point in his career than McGee and is able to just outpoint him on the outside? It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it also—
You're saying K1 Chiesa?
K1 Chiesa. We saw it against Sean Brady in round 3, right?
Oh my God. Dude, I bet Brady's straight there. He gave me a heart attack.
I mean, the other thing is, like, Court likes to push the clinch, but I can't help but think watching them, like, if he tries to clinch up Chiesa like he did Ramiz, Chiesa's just going to like lock his hands over under and end up taking him down. And I do think Court, at his advanced age, with a guy on top of him like Chiesa, is going to have a fair amount of trouble getting up. So I'm not passionate about it because Court historically is a guy who you would think would trouble Chiesa, but I do think he's much further from his prime than Chiesa is. I do think he's not physically as strong as Chiesa is, and I think he's less dangerous. So, yeah, my gut is that Chiesa is going to finish him. I know that the Court hasn't been. I don't think he's been subbed before, if I'm not mistaken, but I think it very well could happen this week. That's just like my gut instinct here.
Yeah, no, you're mentioning some of the recent fights Court McGee had. It's funny you did, because my main event guest is UFC legend Matt Brown, who knocked out Court McGee. Yep. And I got a little piece of trivia for you, and then I've been asking some of my guests. All right, so who's won a fight more recently, Kamaru Usman or retired UFC legend Matt Brown?
Matt Brown knocking out Court McGee, I think, was more recent than the last Usman win. Yeah,
2 years more recently than the last Usman win. Crazy, right?
That is crazy. I mean, what was Usman's last win? Colby, I guess, right?
Colby in 2021, man.
Yeah, that is nuts. I was there. It was pretty crazy.
Oh, wow. That is pretty crazy. But John, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me right here, right now on Half the Battle. The fans can follow you at MMA Fox as well as the Club and Sub podcast. Make sure you all subscribe to that. John, any message for the fans?
No, just message me anytime you want to chat on Twitter. I'm always down. Club and Sub podcast, most Sunday nights, 7 p.m. If there's a holiday, we'll move it up and whatnot. But yeah, that's it, guys. Check it out, subscribe, and like this show and share it.
Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Malcolm the Machine Wellmaker. He's 9-0, taking on Kris Moutinho, who's 14-6. Currently, they got it. Malcolm Wellmaker minus 2,000. The comeback on Kris Moutinho is plus 1,000. Malcolm Wellmaker's 31, Moutinho's 32. Wellmaker's 5'10" with a 71.5-inch reach to Moutinho's 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. So, man, I got to give a huge shout out to Kris Moutinho, because a lot of established UFC fighters turned this fight down. And I'll tell you the names off air, but man, if you heard the names, you'd be like, wait, that guy turned this fight down? Like, so yeah, man, no one wanted this fight. So they had to go to the reserves, and shout out Kris Moutinho, because not only did he accept this fight on short notice, Nick, but Kris Moutinho has put on like a 5-fight win streak, a 5-fight kill streak on his regional scene. So he's earned the opportunity to come back. And I got nothing but respect for him for stepping up and taking this fight. Now, here's the thing, guys. Obviously, you guys know I'm very biased towards Malcolm Wellmaker because I called his amateur fights back when he was fighting with big gloves, headgear, and shin guards. And like he was like rocking and knocking dudes out back then. So like he stood out back then. I thought he was someone special. Nick, the famous story is, you know, I did commentary for the NFC and they told me to only interview, you know, the pros in the main and the co-main event. Cause you know how these fighters they get on the mic, they start screaming. The mic is right here. They'll be talking like over here. No one can hear them, right? You don't want to deal with stuff like that. So they told me, hey, only interview like the main and co-main event. But when I saw what Malcolm Wellmaker did to his opponent, I was like, screw that. I'm interviewing this kid right here, right now. And, you know, he's from Augusta, Georgia, which is 2 hours away from Atlanta. So I was never like in the practice room with Malcolm. I would just see him at the local fights, but I'd always go around being like, hey, when's Malcolm fighting? When's that kid Malcolm fighting? And he always stood out. So it's amazing to see his development. And he's got, again, we were talking about it with Mansur. I mean, Malcolm's got everything I want in a top prospect, one hitter, quitter, but more than the power, it's the accuracy and the timing of the shots, fast twitch athleticism, swagger, confidence, takedown defense, a get-up game, and you hear him talk. He's also highly intelligent. I mean, I think this kid is going straight to the top. Shout out Moutinho for taking one for the team. All respect, but I think that Malcolm comes out here, and I think he knocks Moutinho out quicker than Sean O'Malley did, Nick.
Man, I'll tell you what, Moutinho got some respect in that O'Malley fight. And I'm glad the UFC kind of brought him back. Again, he's on a nice little win streak. He's one of those guys that's going to fight for your money for sure. He's going to go out there and give it his all, and he's capable of winning some fights in the UFC, Moutinho is. But, again, Malcolm, man, he looks like a stud. He looks the part. I mean, so far what we've seen from Dana White's Contender Series and in the UFC, I mean, he's disposed of his opponents quickly within, the first couple minutes. And you know what? His last win over Simon, I know Simon's kind of trending in the downward direction as of late, but that's still an amazing win because Simon has some skill, despite him kind of, you know, bumping into some rough times lately. So I like what I see. Again, you said you know better than I do because of, you know, your background and what you got to see. And I love the insight there, by the way, too, because those special prospects like that, you could tell, you know, even you have a good eye for that talent. A lot of people can kind of see that this kid could be a potential star. And what we've seen in the UFC so far, it's amazing. And I'm not surprised people are turning him down, man, because, again, he's not a household name. So he needs to get that quality win over a household name to kind of get that recognition. But, again, people are going to be ducking this guy for a long, long time. Betting line, again, out of hand for a good reason. I mean, Moutinho's going to, again, his toughness, he's going to come in, bang. He'll probably, you know, have his moments quickly in that fight, but then he's going to probably get put out. I agree with you 100%. And it's even tough to bet a knockout prop. It's going to be too juicy there too as well. So this is, again, another fight to kind of stay away from at the betting window, but it should be an exciting one because, you know, if it lasts 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, it's going to be exciting. There's no question about it.
So Wellmaker round one -120 and Wellmaker round one by KO is +110. So look, I know in most instances, you know, +110 for a round one KO, you're like, I want +500, but we're talking about a -2,000 favorite here, Nick.
Right. So I actually, you know, I'm surprised I didn't check the prop odds yet. So I'm surprised that they're giving you a little bit of plus money. That might disappear too. You know, even though it's not that, you know, you're not seeing the +300, whatever the case is, because he's got that kind of finishing power. And again, you look at his resume as of late too. He's been getting people out of there pretty quick. So I wouldn't be surprised if that plus money disappears.
Yeah. So regarding, you know, him getting all these first round finishes, I know a narrative's going to develop that, oh, he's a KO or bust guy. He's a first round or bust guy. Don't listen to any of that. Malcolm's been 5 rounds kickboxing. He's been 5 rounds in MMA. So his power translates deep into fights, early in fights. His cardio is unreal. Like, let me tell you this too. Okay. We know about the power, but like people don't know about the work ethic. People like, so hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard. But when you combine the two, you get Malcolm Wellmaker. And again, respect to Kris Moutinho because he's a guy that likes to cook guys. But what does that mean? That means that he's going to throw a lot of volume and he's going to eat your hardest shot and then keep walking forward. Now, don't get me wrong, Nick. I love that quality in a fighter. However, don't do that against Malcolm, you know?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. He's probably not going to be able to survive it if he's going to get in that firefight in this spot too, beyond round one, I would think. If he does, man, we're going to see it's just going to be a fan-friendly fight even more so. I mean, we're going to love every moment of it probably. So this has a sleeper, you know, maybe not a sleeper to most people, but this could be fight of the night, man. It's not going to get a ton of attention, but, you know, again, it might only be a few minutes, whatever it may work out to be. But there's a chance it could be fight of the night as well. It depends on Moutinho, honestly, how much he gives us there. It could be like the O'Malley fight. A lot of people, again, were impressed. And again, Moutinho's had his moments outside of the UFC as well. So he's going to come in here. He's got nothing to lose either. Yeah, you got to love a good Cinderella story. And that's kind of what it is here for Moutinho.
Yeah, I hope the Cinderella story is you get the respect for taking this on short notice, then you win your next fight. But Saturday night, unfortunately, he's going to
get they're going to give him another shot here, even if he loses this fight. You know what I mean? The UFC is going to bring him back and give him a more winnable fight in his next fight for Moutinho. So, again, congrats to him for getting back in here. And like you said, taking this fight that nobody wanted to take. So it's an uphill battle for him, but you never know, man. It's a fight, so you really never know. Never know.
Exactly. If we knew the outcome, then there would be, then I'd lay $5,000 to win $200, right? But yeah, I just don't operate like that. But man, Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me right here, right now on Half the Battle. It's always an honor. The fans can follow you at Fight Odds, The Gambler's Perspective on Fight Pass. Anything else you want to tell the fans before I get you out of here?
Oh, no, that's about it. Check out MMAoddsbreaker.com as well. Hopefully we got some new changes coming to the site fairly soon. We have some things in the works. So, and again, follow me on Twitter at Fight Odds, Instagram, Fight Odds, Nick Kalikas. And we'll see you guys soon. Check out On the Line and the Gambler's Perspective coming your way this week. Yeah, UFC On the Line too. Nick, thanks again, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, man. If you're looking to get some action down on the fights, make sure you hit up my friends at bet105.ag because they got a special offer for you this weekend. If you're looking to parlay my two top prospects, Malcolm Wellmaker and Mansur Abdul Malik, with the main event favorite, Joaquin Buckley, so currently you're going to have to pay a little bit over -160 odds. Now, Bet105 are going to knock 20% off of that, and you're going to get this 3-team parlay for -136 odds. Now, add a fourth leg to the mix, and you might be looking at a nice return. So definitely take advantage of that. Now, we talk about it all the time, and we're going to keep talking about it. Split decision insurance. I can tell y'all firsthand because I was born and raised in Atlanta. I've been around the fight scene for a very long time, and I regret to inform you that the officiating in Atlanta is absolutely horrendous. So if these fights go to the judges' scorecards, I'm going to be holding my breath, especially if Nate Mann is judging these fights. If you hear that name, run for your life. But my friends at Bet105 are offering split decision insurance, meaning you go to split decision and you win, no big deal. You get paid. It is what it is. But you lose that split decision, Bet105 are going to give you 25% of your money back. Hey, that's better than nothing, especially considering the state of modern day judging in MMA. So, my friends, go to bet105.ag, use my promo code HalfTheBattle, deposit $100 and get a $50 free bet at bet105.ag using my promo code HalfTheBattle. Now let's get back to the show. Next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Cody Durden. He's 17-7-1, taking on Jose Ochoa, who's 7-1. Currently, they got it. Jose Ochoa -190. The comeback on Cody Durden is +165. So Cody Durden is 34 years old. He's 10 years older than his opponent, Jose Ochoa, who's 24 years old. Both men are 5'7" with 67-inch reaches. And man, this is going to be an absolute banger. And joining me to break down this flyweight fight is the two-time MMA handicapper of the year, Andrew Gomez. Andrew, welcome back to Half the Battle.
What's up, bro? Thanks for having me, and congrats on the milestone.
Thank you so much. The pleasure's all mine. Let's get right down to business because this is a serious fight that's going on in Atlanta. And not only that, the odds are kind of interesting too. This kid Ochoa hasn't won in the UFC yet. He's almost a 2-1 favorite, but I'll admit I'm very impressed with him. I like his regional footage. He's young, he's hungry, he comes to fight, comes out of a great camp and shoots a box, long for the weight class, big kicks, knees. You shoot a sloppy takedown on him, he's got some front chokes waiting for you. And I liked his UFC debut with Lone Kavanaugh. Now, Andrew, I got to be honest because, that fight live was like in Macau, China at like 5 a.m. So like my memory of that fight's a little bit different than how it actually played out. So live, I thought it was like this 50-50 fight. But when I went back and rewatched it, I actually thought Lone Kavanaugh low-key won 13 minutes of that fight. But that's not to take anything away from Ochoa at all. And with Durden, here's what I know about Durden. He went all in for this camp, right? The last 4 months, he stayed at ATT Florida, away from his wife, away from his kids, because Cody Durden knows what's at stake. I know what's at stake. Andrew Gomez knows what's at stake. All the fans listening to episode 600 of Half the Battle know what's at stake. So this is going to be a serious fight. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, this is one of the the most exciting matchups on the entire card for me. Like, obviously, you get a guy in Ochoa who has a lot of hype behind him, even though he did lose his UFC debut. You know, you don't often see that. Typically, if a guy comes in and loses their first fight, like, they're not a favorite against a guy like Cody Durden. But I think that just speaks to, you know, how serious people are taking Ochoa, and rightfully so. Like you mentioned, comes from a really good camp. He's a good striker. He scrambles well. This isn't one of those fights where I'm like, you know, it's not a setup fight for a new guy trying to get him a win. Like, they gave him a really hard second fight. It wasn't like, oh, you lost your first fight to another tough guy. Here's an easy fight. Like, they gave him a really, really tough matchup. On the flip side, it's not one of those fights where I'm like, oh, you know, too much too soon for a new guy coming up against a tough veteran. Like, I truly think this is a fight that either guy can win. Obviously, you know, Cody Durden has proven himself time and time again in the UFC. He's a good wrestler, a good grappler. He's not a slouch in the striking either. And I think the people who see this fight as like Ochoa just, you know, getting a win under his belt are in for a rude awakening, because it's not like Cody Durden's just, you know, been a journeyman who's been around forever. Like, this is a good fighter, and he's still a good fighter, even though he's lost 2 out of his last 3. Like, if you look at those fights, it's like Josh Van's going to be challenging for a title soon. You know, he had the win over Matt Schnell, and then a fight against Bruno Silva, which he won every second of the fight up until the finish, basically. I think this is a banger. I expect Cody to land some takedowns here. I don't think he's necessarily going to just, you know, control him for 12 minutes in a 15-minute fight. I do think he's going to get takedowns. I do think Ochoa is going to scramble back to his feet, and it's just going to be a war from there. I probably think Cody gets like 6 or 7 minutes to control. I think both guys are going to land on the feet. I expect it to be a really close fight. I'm going to side with Cody Durden. I give him, you know, top time upside. He's proven to me he can beat legit fighters like Charles Johnson and Jake Hadley. And I'm not discrediting Ochoa. I'm not saying he's getting fraud check, nothing like that. He belongs in the UFC, but this is a hard fight for him. And I'm going to take Cody Durden to get it done.
Yeah, you know, that's music to my ears. And Andrew and I did not talk about this fight off air or anything like that. But yeah, listen, you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see Cody Durden come out here and hand this kid a vet lesson. I think this kid's got a very bright future. I don't think he's going anywhere. Even if he starts off his UFC career 0-2, I think he's going to go on to do great things. But he's a 24-year-old kid. There's nothing wrong with paying your dues. I mean, Merab went 0-2 to start his UFC career. And yeah, you know, Cody Durden's paid so much dues. And like you said, Josh Van, future title challenger, Tagir, no slouch at all. The Bruno fight was just unfortunate that he got caught, but he was dominating that fight. But Bruno hits like a truck. But you see how Cody does against these other guys. Destroyed Matt Schnell on a week's short notice. The Charles Johnson fight, 30-27 him, when Charles Johnson is, you know, known for, he gasses these guys out, then has those big third rounds. And like, Cody unanimously won all 3 rounds. So you love to see it. So yeah, I'm hoping he can mix it up. Like, Cody, you don't have to stand in the pocket with this guy. Like, we know that you love putting on a show and you get excited and all that, but you don't have to do that. You can take this guy down. You can mix it up. So I just want to see a well-rounded veteran MMA performance from Cody Durden. And I think if he does that, he can give this kid a vet lesson. Just don't stand in the pocket with him. And I think he's going to have a successful night in Atlanta where, you know, I called this man's like, not amateur fights like Malcolm, but his early pro fights in the NFC, Cody Durden. And it's going to be really cool to see him in Atlanta, Georgia at the State Farm Arena, no less. So, Andrew, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me right here, right now on Half the Battle. You know, it's always a pleasure. Any message for the fans? I know y'all haven't been doing the Magic and Andrew podcast, which we hope you reconsider, but any message for the fans?
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and make sure you keep watching Dan. And again, Dan, congrats on the milestone, and hope you have a good time watching the fights this weekend.
Thanks, my brother. Really appreciate you, and best of luck with everything you got going on, man. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Ricky Simone. He's 21-6, taking on Cameron Smotherman, who's 12-5. Currently, they got it. Ricky Simón minus 525. The comeback on Cameron Smotherman is plus 400. Cameron Smotherman is 5'9" to Ricky Simón's 5'6", and he's also 27 to Ricky Simón's 32. Both men have a 69-inch reach. So Smotherman is filling in for Charles Jourdain, who had a last-minute eye injury. And joining me to break down this bantamweight matchup is my boy, the Jewish bettor, my man. Welcome back to After Battle.
Oy vey, my guy. Thank you for having me. And even though this is a short notice matchup, I'm excited to break it down, and it's still a good one in my eyes.
Absolutely. And, I do wish it was the original fight with Jourdain. That was a banger, especially with Jourdain dropping to 35s. He had that debut performance against Victor Henry where it's like, okay, you're finally in your right weight class. But now Ricky Simón is a massive favorite in this spot. And I think he should be a favorite, my boy. But here's my past trauma will not let me lay this price on it. Why? Do you remember when I max bet Ricky Simón against Uriah Faber, who was like 40 years old in his retirement fight, and he knocked out Ricky Simón in under a minute? Do you remember Ricky Simón's regional fight against Anderson Dos Santos, who ended up being a UFC journeyman? He dropped Ricky Simón and choked him out shortly after. Do you remember Ricky Simón's UFC fight against guard puller Ronnie Yaya when Ronnie rocked him with a jab? So I'm just saying, at minus 525 odds, even though I think he's better across the board, and if he mixes in his wrestling, forget about it. It's like he's been rocked too many times for me to get behind this price. And Smotherman, he's really bad off his back. His takedown defense isn't there. But the one thing he does have is hands for MMA, but like for what standards? It's not, it's not Malcolm Wellmaker hands or anything like that. But like it's enough to where if Ricky bangs in the pocket, I have a little bit of fear and worry. And the reason I'm bringing that up, my man, is because Ricky's coming off a devastating knockout. You know how these wrestlers get when they get a one-punch knockout? They all of a sudden think they're God's gift to striking, and then they forget they're wrestlers. So how do you see this newly booked matchup going?
I think it's a great one, dude. Look, at the end of the day, Ricky Simón had an excellent win last time out in Seattle. It was in his hometown. He was a big underdog, back against the wall, and he finds a massive KO shot. I did not expect him to win in that fashion. I thought it was live. But I did not expect him to win in that fashion. Throws the big right hand, lands clean, puts for it out. Congratulations, Ricky Simón. You're still in the UFC. And he's supposed to fight Jourdain here. Now you have to worry about these guillotines, all this stuff. The interesting striker in Jourdain. It's a little bit different now. Smotherman, more of a boxer. He likes to use his hands on the feet. He's a solid striker here. Not a power puncher necessarily, but he can crack. He can land hard. I've seen him do it multiple times before. And when he's on the feet, he tends to land. He likes to land that right hand, and it could rock people. So I could see him hurting Ricky Simón here. But I remember I watched live in person Ryan Coos versus Cameron Smotherman, and I thought Ryan Coos won that fight in person. I had plus 180 on Ryan Coos, and I was outraged. I said, Texas is corrupt. They're the worst judges in the world. Why did I even do this to myself? I should have known the outcome. And I went back and watched the fight. I still think Coos had an argument to win, but it was pretty close. And Coos, he's a solid grappler, guy out of Goat Shed MMA, but he's not UFC. I don't want to say UFC level, but UFC proven. Ricky Simón is a UFC proven grappler. And I think when he wants takedowns here, he's going to probably have success getting them. So basically, at this price tag, you're planning on Ricky Simón going out and sticking to the game plan. Versus Vinicius Lokdog Oliveira. Man, Lokdog is just a different kind of beast. Excellent fight. I had Lokdog there, I believe, as an underdog in that spot. And Ricky Simón, man, I thought he might have been injured in that fight. There's rumors that he could have been injured because it just seemed like every time he went, he just didn't push the wrestling like he normally does. And that's the only thing that would worry me here against Smotherman. The thing I like about Smotherman is against the cage, he does have some good get-ups. He's the younger guy. He's going to be getting better. This is his second time training at a Lobo gym. So, sometimes those first fights, those adjustments don't come. The second fight, it could happen. I like that he, beat Jake Hadley as a big underdog, but I took Smotherman there also, and I think it was a completely different read. It was a short notice fight then again, so Hadley had to prepare for a different matchup. Hadley does not have the wrestling or physicality that Ricky Simón has, and he doesn't have the power that Ricky Simón has. The worry that I always have with Cameron Smotherman since the Charlampus Gregorio fight is he's going to get knocked out. So we saw Ricky could knock people out in the last fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Ricky got this one to the ground or landed a big shot and maybe even found a club and sub, bro. I might look for that number if it's big.
No, that's a great point. Like, Ricky doesn't necessarily just need to wrestle. Cameron Smotherman's got a suspect chin too. It's just that banging with Cameron might give Cameron the one chance he has to win this fight. So that's my only concern. But I agree with you, and I think the odds agree with us as well. -525. You know, so let's see if Ricky can make it 2 wins in a row. And also, like, yeah, I do agree that, like, you know, Ricky maybe slightly past his prime, but like, you can't hold these losses against him, man. Song Yadong, top 10 guy. Mario Bautista, top 10 guy. Lock Dog, future top 10 guy. So no big deal, no harm, no foul. And then big rebound in his hometown, you know, against Javid Basharat. You know, you love to see it. But now, you know, man, I really wish that Jordan fight was happening, but we got to work with what we got. And we got Cameron Smotherman. And I think Ricky Simón is too battle tested in this spot. Yeah. And he's going to win this fight. So, yeah, man. Any parting words?
That's it. You just got to worry about the bonk on the feet. I think other than that, he has him covered. You know, he's obviously the better grappler. The worry is just the chin. And we'll see, man. Like I said, I'll be looking for those props as a better, maybe the Ricky Simón club and sub. I ain't playing Ricky Simón -500. It just ain't happening. And as a predictor, I like Ricky Simón here. I think he probably wins a decision. But I think finish is live, man.
Yes, sir. Well, my man, they can follow you at MMA Jewish Better. Make sure y'all tap into Parlay Madness live. Are y'all doing Thursdays or Fridays?
We are going to do Thursday. And just as always, we are going to be smoking plenty of pack, just like last week. My man, Dan, cheers to you. Shalom, cheers, brother.
Thank you, my bro. It was great having you on episode 600. Make sure y'all follow my boy. And any last message for the fans before I get you out of here, my boy? Is that a wick I see?
Oh, we got the hemp wick. We're hippie style here.
You already know what time it is.
Yep. And we ATL pimping. We ATL living. We gonna get this money this weekend. Oive.
Hey, man, come down for the card. You know, your betting slate might pay for it. You never know. And we'll link up. But hey, good talking to you. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Phil Rowe, he's 10-5, taking on Ange Lusa, who's 10-4. But between you and me, he's also 10-5 because he definitely lost to Brian Battle. Currently, they got it Ange Lusa -130. The comeback on Phil Rowe is +110. Phil Rowe is 6'3". Ange Lusa is 5'10", and they got Rowe's reach listed at 80.5 inches to Ange Lusa's 74-inch reach. Phil Rowe is 3 years older at 34 years old, and joining me to break down this welterweight matchup is Dravi from the Beat the Line broadcast. Dravi, welcome back to Half the Battle.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dan. It's a good fight, this one. I love it. Normally, these type of fight I'm not supposed to be excited about, but I think it could be a good one, dude. People are really low on Phil Rowe, obviously, right now because he can be dumb at time. He doesn't have the best fight IQ, but the guy has all the tools to me. He's 6'3", like you said, 80 inch of reach, which is crazy for the division. And good striker, BJJ black belt, decent cardio. He carries power late. The thing with him is, you know, he can play BJJ off his back. He can be taken down. He can be out against the cage. And sometimes in the cage, he doesn't make the best decision, which has cost him in the past. But when you look at it in the fight against Jake Matthews, right? He's landing the jab. He's doing great with the 1-2. It's 1-1 going into round 3. And then you get Jake Matthews. He reversed Jake Matthews in round 3. And then he does the mistakes. He goes to the back too quick. He ends up on bottom. And Jake Matthews, obviously a really good BJJ player. He ends up riding the round, winning the fight that way. But we're talking about one mistake. And if he gets the back, or if you just stay on top and stay safe, you win the round and you win the fight, right? And Jake Matthews is proven like top 20 guys in the division. Same for Neil Magny. It's a split decision. Neil Magny, not the best guys, but always been a top 15 guy, right? He clinched too much in that fight. He ended up losing, but on the feet at distance, the guy is good, honestly. The only thing is he can be low volume, but I like his jab. I like his 1-2. And Ange Lusa, the thing with him is I bet on him and the 2 fights he won in the UFC, Dan, and I was not really happy with it because he looked like it were great bet and you still win, but some sketchy moments against guys that have a combined record in the UFC. 2 wins, 7 losses, not the best competition. And you look at AJ Fletcher, really small for the division, and that's also a guy that he can't even win fights on the regional right now. So not really the best guy, but you know, AJ Fletcher is still able to hurt Angelusa in round 2, almost finish him. And I don't like the body language of Angelusa when he gets hurt. I think the guy is really durable, but when he gets hurt, you start to do, you know, some weird shit, and it looked like another ref could have stopped that fight. You know what I mean? So I don't like that. Same thing with Rhys McGee. Rhys McGee, the problem that he always has in his career, he can't defend takedowns to save his life. So Angelusa, he was outstriking him, doing good work, taking him down. And then in round 3, somehow, some way, McGee's right there and he's hurting him, you know? So I just think that even in his best performance, when he's getting his game going, he's still winning 29-28, right? Against guys that are 2-7, like I said, in the UFC. So this one, the way I see it is I think Rowe has more upside, especially at dog odds. I just think the guy is the better fighter all around, honestly. Lusa could get takedowns there, but the way I look at it is he doesn't have the best top control. He doesn't have the best top game when he gets takedown. So I think Phil Rowe could get back up, and I think he has the better BJJ also of the two. And on the feed, I think he's more likely to hurt Lusa. I think he's more likely to finish Lusa. And to me, it's a similar matchup than Jake Matthews, but I think a worse version. And he was a mistake away from winning that fight. So I think Phil Rowe should be winning that one, but he's hard to trust. So I get it, guys. He's not the type of guy you want to have a lot of money on. But yeah, I think he should win. I think he should be a slight favorite.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we talk about that 80-inch reach, and Dravi, it's interesting because it's actually longer than that, because I heard an interview with him, and he's got like this old school boxing coach. So when they were measuring the reach, he didn't even have his hands fully extended. He had them like kind of tucked in. So he's actually got like an 83 or 84-inch reach. And the black belt is under Julian Williams. So you know that's legit. And man, I actually also bet on Angelusa in that fight against AJ Fletcher. Ironically enough, I believe, Dravi, that was the same night that Kamaru got head kicked by Leon. And Kamaru also being on this card. But man, it started off like it was smooth sailing. And in that second round, when Angelusa hit that cardio dump / got rocked, oh my God, I am so lucky that fight did not get stopped, because those were some of the worst visuals I've ever seen in my life. Not to mention, we're lucky not only that we didn't get stopped, but that we came back and won the third round. Like, that was ridiculous, right? And like you mentioned, you know, we talked about how Phil Rowe, you know, he's been like one round away from winning not just the Jake Matthews fight, the Gabe Green fight as well, right? So it's like a matter of inches with Phil Rowe. And I do think he probably gets taken down here. I do think that Angelusa is going to be kind of a brute early on. But man, one thing I've noticed about Phil Rowe, when he finds a home for that straight right hand, he gets massive reactions from people. And that dude, AJ Fletcher, that had Angelusa doing like the chicken dance of all chicken dances, that guy's got like a 68-inch reach. Okay. Rowe's got like a 83 to 84-inch reach, you know, 80.5 that we know of, right? So I'm with you on this one, man. I think that this is a kind of, you know, I don't want to say evenly matched fight, but Phil Rowe's not taking a big step up against a guy like Magny or Jake Matthews, who's been in the UFC since they were literal kids, right? Now he's fighting someone with similar experience. And honestly, like, both have been training in Florida, but like Phil Rowe cross trains in Atlanta. So if any of them is a hometown guy, it's Phil Rowe here. So I'm going with the upset as well. I'm gonna go with Philly Fresh to come out here and use that range and find a home for that straight right and hurt Angelusa. So I'm with you on it. Dravi, thank you for taking the time. The fans can follow you at Dravi. They can check out the Beat the Line broadcast. Any message for the fans?
Nothing, Dan. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, and it's gonna be a great card for you. You're going, right? So
of course.
Yeah, enjoy it, bro.
Thank you, my man. Talk to you soon, buddy. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Vanessa Demopoulos, she's 11-7, taking on Jamie Lynn Horth, who's 7-2. And currently, they got it. Jamie Lynn Horth minus 475. The comeback on Vanessa Demopoulos is plus 375. So Jamie Lynn Horth, she's 5 inches taller. She'll have a 7-inch reach advantage, and she's also 2 years younger in this spot. And joining me to break down the first fight of the night is the host of the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm talking about Mr. Clint McLean. Clint, welcome back to Half the Battle.
Thanks for having me back, man. Always a pleasure. I appreciate the invite, and I'm pumped. Congratulations on the big number. Let's do this thing.
I appreciate that. Listen, there's a specific reason I wanted you on this one, because you're good at these obscure fights. I mean, for my UFC 300 episode, I had you on the Cody Brundage fight. You know, you had come off like 2 Brundage round 1 calls. You've been very good with Vanessa Demopoulos. I know she actually even did a guest appearance on your show once. So let me say this, man. We got to set the table with these odds. We already mentioned it's almost minus 500. So now this can't be split decision territory. You know, this can't be one of those fights where you leave it in Adelaide Bird's hands, you leave it in Kris Lee's hands. And in Atlanta, I can tell you this right now, if these fights are close and they go to the judges, our officiating is not the best. If you hear the name Nate Mann, run for your life and throw your ticket away. That's all I got to say. But the reason I talk like this, Clint, is because Vanessa Demopoulos, from time to time, she will win some controversial split decisions. And at a price like that, that's exactly what you want. She's not even in her prime. She's kind of past her prime a little bit. Horth is not in her prime either. She's entering her prime. So you got kind of like a complete product in Vanessa Demopoulos taking on a green developing fighter in Horth. And Horth is almost minus 500. How you see it going down?
Man, I mean, you say that it can't be something where it's a split decision territory when we're talking -4, -500s, but this is women's MMA, baby. It's always going to be split decision territory, if you feel me. Oh, man. This one is interesting to me because we're not in Vegas. We got to look at the client list, right? We got to see if Vanessa has any people who she frequented out there with you guys. Otherwise, you know,
you saying my girl Vanessa? You saying my girl Vanessa might have worked at Magic City? Is that what you're implying?
I don't know Magic City, you know, personally, but it wouldn't shock me, man. It's like a traveling masseuse, right? You got a traveling pole. She might have made her way around. I have no idea.
Hey, when you're in Atlanta, we're going to get Clint those Magic City wings. Thank me later.
There we go. All right, I just won't say a word to it about to the wife about it, but I'm in. Let's go. Braves game in Magic City. I'm in.
Yes, we're clipping that. Braves game in Magic City. Hey, this is over. I don't need a pick anymore. That's all I need to hear.
Let's go. Wrap it. Cut it. No, man. I this fight, you know me. I'm a degenerate. I'm a low-level fan. You put 2 people fighting in a cage, I'll watch it every time. I somehow love this fight, right? I shouldn't, but I do. Vanessa Demopoulos, BJJ black belt. Kind of. I mean, she has this thing where she wants to get aggressive with her submissions, and because of that, she ends up on her back a lot. And usually she's not the one actually pulling out the sub, and that's unfortunate. So she needs to get on top of people. She needs to use her wrestling. And the one thing about Vanessa, she is a compact little fire hydrant, man. She is strong. She's got some big tree trunk thighs. She actually can get on top of people. I thought there were some of these BJJ girls recently that was going to come into play. Talita Alencar, Jacqueline Almarim. These were the little less physical women who I felt like Vanessa could tackle out there. Jamie Lynn Horth, she is not a little girl in that cage, my friend. This is not the fighter who I'm going to count on Vanessa being able to find her way to top position. This is not the fighter who I think is going to be able to overpower. I fully believe Jamie Lynn Horth is going to be able to bully her way around Vanessa Demopoulos in this fight. As you said, she's a little older, but she kind of reminds me of an Angela Hill. She got late to the game. Just because she's a little long in the tooth, physically speaking, she's still kind of young when it comes to the well-rounded MMA game. So I think we could see some new wrinkles from Jamie Lynn Horth. She's going to have a height and a reach advantage here. And even though we have seen her make some poor decisions herself when it comes to the grappling, slip off, end up on bottom a couple times, man, that's against Miranda Maverick. You're not going to have the same issues when it comes to the defense or the get-up game against Vanessa as you would against Miranda. So yeah, man, this is unfortunately a favorite or pass spot for me in this situation. I don't like it. I'm probably not going to lay that kind of a price tag, but if you're asking me who wins, it's Jamie Lynn Horth.
Yeah, listen, man, I'm just kind of dumbfounded by the line, but not to the point where I want to, make a big case for Vanessa, because there's one metric that absolutely drives me crazy. I'm sure you know exactly what it is. Her takedown defense is 25%. That means that 3 of every 4 takedown attempts will take her down. That I just can't. Now, the reason why she's able to get away with some of these decisions is because one thing about Vanessa, she might not have the best takedown defense, but she gives max effort. And that's something I truly respect. Absolutely. So she's gone out there, and even though she's been technically outmatched in a lot of fights, she still goes out there and fights her heart out. So I really respect that quality about her. And with Horth, I don't think she's got the same heart as Vanessa, but man, the physicality is just so much to overcome in this spot. And I feel like if she wants to take down, she's going to get them here. Just has to be aware, arm bars from guard and stuff among those lines. And plus you're minus 500. Like I said, this goes to the judges, and I'd be very worried, but because I don't know if I see a domination. That's my thing, Clint. Like, So I'm gonna say Horth, wins a 29-28, possibly even a split decision. Does not look like value at all. It looks like a dog or pass situation, but the favorite scrapes by. So yeah, I'm gonna take Horth as well. So Clint, the fans can follow you at Die Hard MMA Pod. And make sure you all subscribe to the Die Hard MMA podcast on YouTube. Give my boy a follow. And Clint, thanks so much for your time.
Appreciate you, Dan. Congratulations again, my friend, and happy to be here on the show. Good luck this weekend to everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you, bro. And joining me now for the Big Marley Minute is the 2024 Millie Maker winner, the 13 times DraftKings qualifier, and the analyst for CBS Sportsline. I'm talking about Big Marley himself. Kyle, welcome back to Half the Battle.
Thanks, my man. It's been a long time, especially for a Big Marley Minute. But what better time to be back than episode 600 when it's in Atlanta, your hometown. And I'll be there with you, man. So I can't wait for it. I'm looking forward to it.
Man, Marley and I are going to be watching these fights in the suite. Going to be seeing Malcolm Wellmaker knock some dude out. And I cannot wait. But Marley, I mean, so a lot of the new fans don't even know that you used to be on the show regularly. We had this segment for your DraftKings advice called the Big Marley Minute. And we had to bring it back for episode 600 at UFC Atlanta. So let's not waste any time because, man, you look at these prices, it's going to be tough to get down on some of these favorites. I mean, I know people want to get down on Buckley. I know people want Wellmaker, Mansur, Abdul, Malik. Edmen Shahbazyan has a lot of first-round upside, but you can't fit all those guys into your lineup. We're going to have to get some sneaky dogs in there. How are you tackling DraftKings at UFC Atlanta this weekend?
There's a couple underdogs I'm looking forward to. I think that your boy Cody Durden is a really good one to look to, especially for DraftKings, because when Durden wins, he usually scores well, and that's good because you want the wrestlers, you want the guys who are going to be active for 15 minutes, not sitting back, kind of waiting and just picking their spots, getting significant strikes only. A guy like Durden is going to be out there. He might attempt 10, 15 takedowns over the course of 15 minutes, and that's what you like to see. If he can land 30% of those and keep 5 minutes of top control, then really all the striking is just a bonus at that point. So I don't feel confident that Durden's going to win, but he's one of my favorite underdogs just because he has a higher ceiling than most underdogs on the card. And I do feel like he's one of the more live dogs, especially fighting in his backyard. So I'll be rooting for Durden, and I'll have him in quite a bit of DraftKings lineups as well. So I hope he does pull off the win. That'd be a great upset.
That's obviously music to my ears. That's what I hope happens. And respect to Ochoa. I think he's a young stud too. What's the biggest favorite on DraftKings you've ever seen? Because I know we're looking at Wellmaker at 9,800. Has there ever been a 9,900 before?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I don't think there has. I want to say 9,800 is probably the top, maybe like a Kayla Harrison or a Bo Nickel, something like that where they're over minus 1,000. But, I mean, it makes sense in this one because Moutinho's getting brought in to lose, really. I mean, he's a human punching bag for the most part, and Wellmaker's just going to be so much better, so much faster, so much stronger, and he's going to be so hyped up fighting in Atlanta in his backyard as well. So I think that a first-round knockout, I haven't even seen the line on the first-round knockout, but I would imagine it's pretty high, like, minus 250 or something like that?
Yeah, someone just steamed Malcolm. He went from minus 1,300 to minus 2,500.
Oh my God! Wow. Yeah, so that's going to bring up that round one prop as well. Let's look this up. All right, Wellmaker wins in round one. Ooh, only minus 120. I feel like there's some value there. That might be because of that O'Malley fight where Moutinho just ate so many strikes, but I don't think that's Wellmaker's game. Wellmaker's going to land a nasty hook and just put him away. He's not going to just pitter patter his way into a 200 strike win here. I think it's going to be, like the video game. His damage bar is going to go down pretty damn quick in this one. And then I think he goes down in the first round. So I'm going to be on as much Wellmaker as I can. The issue with him is that he is $9,800. He's going to be hard to afford, and he has to get a first round knockout most likely, unless he's able to get like 3 knockdowns in the way are en route to a second round or a third round knockout. Then maybe he could score enough along the way, because I don't think he's going to go out there and wrestle like we want Durden to do. He's going to go out there, swing some hooks, and knock this kid's head off.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I got a bit of a dilemma on DraftKings this week, Marley, because my top middleweight prospect, Mansur Abdul Malik, is on the card. My top bantamweight prospect, Malcolm Wellmaker, is on the card. And it's pretty damn obvious that I can't have both of them on the same lineup unless I just get 4 underdogs, which is going to be really tough to do. So Are you going, some lineups with Mansur, some lineups with Malcolm? Are you going all in on one of them? Like, what do you think? Like, which side should I go, or should I just split my lineups in half?
Yeah, I'm looking to kind of get at least one of them in probably every lineup I build this week. They're my two favorites on the card. Wellmaker, I think, is more live for that first round, just completely knock this guy out. And if you knock him out in the first 60 seconds, you get a 25-point bonus. And I think Wellmaker's more live for that, which if he gets it, he's on the optimal lineup. I do think we can squeeze them both onto a couple lineups. I'll try to do that as well. But my rule will probably just be one or the other. Whereas if somehow Wellmaker does go to a decision, he's not going to pay off a $9,800 salary. But a guy like Abdul Malik, he could put on the wrestling shoes and absolutely pay that off over a guy like Cody Brundage. But I don't think that's going to happen either. I think he's probably going to knock out Brundage. My issue, honestly, in this one is Brundage sees this guy all hydrated backstage before the fights, and suddenly his heart rate can't get low enough to fight. And then we're stuck on DraftKings with our lineups locked. That's my issue with a Brundage type of fighter, but I do feel like this is a cakewalk for Abdul Malik. And yeah, man, he's going to be a middleweight that I don't know who I'm going to be picking over this guy to win. I think he's a future champ probably.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a reason he's my top prospect in middleweight. And I didn't want to go off on too big of a tangent, but I was talking about this earlier, how we see a lot of people virtue signaling about how the sport was so much better back in the day. But, dude, the middleweight prospects back in the day were like Dennis Kang, Patrick Cote, and Alan Belcher. Nowadays, we got this kid, Mansur, who looks like Francis, hits like Francis, and he's got a D1 wrestling background. Like, he literally has everything I want in a fighter. It's like I created this guy in a video game. It's unbelievable. But Marley, I got to address the elephant in the room. And you know damn well what it is. It's Ricky Simón. Because, listen, I know every single DraftKings guy is going to say he's the play of the week. He's 8,700, but he's minus 500 on the money line. But I know you know which example I'm about to reference where that burnt people so badly. Billy Goff. He was supposed to fight someone else. Then I think he got matched up with Ramiz. He's still 8,700, but he's like a big favorite, gets smoked in the first round. Everybody's DraftKings lineups go up in smoke. Now, I don't think that Cameron Smotherman is as dangerous as Ramiz Brahimaj, but that 8,700 number mixed in with my past history, getting burnt on Ricky, kind of has me a bit hesitant, although it should be a very favorable matchup for Ricky.
Yeah, especially when you have a fighter that's canceled and you're stuck in at that price. He was, like minus 180 or whatever it was against Jourdain at 8,700, and then he's stuck at that against Smotherman where he's minus 500 now. So there's always big time value when that happens, but the issue is that everyone's going to see it and his ownership is going to be raised because of it. And let's say your best lineup that does hit the optimal has Ricky Simón in it, and 58% of other lineups have it as well. You might be splitting that first place with 40 other people, and suddenly your pot's not as big anymore. So sometimes, even though it makes a lot of sense on paper, like this guy's a for sure win, even if he wins, he's going to score well. MMA is a crazy sport. Crazy things happen, and nobody's going to be on Smotherman this week. That's a way just to get different. If you have a Smotherman lineup on the optimal lineup, and there's only 9% of the field that have him, you could win a solo 200K. It's probably 100K this week with that type of fighter. I'm not saying he's going to win, but that's the type of stuff you want to think of in DFS where you're playing for first place and you don't want to split first place with everybody else. So that's a good narrative or a game theory type of play if you do want to go against a chalky play in Simón. But I do think, on paper, Simón should probably dog walk this guy and score well.
So one last thing before I get you out of here. Any dogs standing out? I know we mentioned Durden, maybe Phil Rowe. What are you thinking as far as dogs are concerned?
No, I think my other dog is kind of the same as Durden with Usman. I don't feel confident Usman is going to win this fight. I mean, 2 years ago, he would have been a minus 500 favorite in this fight, and I probably would have said there's value on it, and I would have laid it. But now I don't trust him like I did back then. He's getting older every year. He's getting less inactive or less active. I mean, his knees are probably only getting worse, so I don't trust him. But if Usman is going to win this fight in a 5-round fight, he's probably going to score more than 100 points. And if that's the case, you're not going to have a lineup that cashes without an Usman, probably. So I'm going to be heavy on the Usman side. I do think the Buckley side of this could make it where that fight's not on the optimal lineup. Maybe Usman wins the first round with wrestling. Can't get any more takedowns after that. Buckley cruises to like a 49-46 striking victory, and he scores 90 points. that might not cut it. And you're also going to have 50% of the field with Buckley as well. So I'm probably going to be underweight to the Buckley, overweight Usman. Usman's going to be a guy that'll help me get up to those Wellmakers and Abdul Maliks.
Wow. Yeah. This is why we have Kyle Marley on the Big Marley Minute. That's why I'm not giving the DraftKings advice here, man. So real quick, before I get you out of here. So, my guest for the main event was Matt the Immortal Brown. I got a little piece of trivia for you. Who's won a fight more recently? Kamaru Usman or the retired legend, Matt the Immortal Brown?
Wow. I mean, the way you're putting it, I have to say Matt Brown, but I would not have thought that.
That's right. Not only has Matt Brown won a fight more recently than Usman, he's won a fight like 2 years more recently than Usman. Crazy, right?
That is wild. I mean, time flies these days. I feel like Usman was just the king like 2 years ago, but it was more than that, man. It just flies these days, and you're really the king of like knowing when these guys are not going to come back. So I listened to you earlier. I know who you're picking in this one, and that always worries me in these older guys that they just don't usually come back and show their former selves, and you're like the king of that. So that would worry me on the Usman side. But I have to just play for the ceiling and just hope that he can wrestle in this one.
But you know what worries me on the Buckley side? You said 50% owned. As soon as I hear that, I'm like, I gotta get away from that, So yeah, it's interesting how it works. And when I told Matt that, he couldn't believe it either. He was like, really? So yeah, dude, it's interesting. The fight game is brutal, but Marley, it's always a pleasure. The fans can follow you at Big Marley 3 on Twitter. And any message for the fans before I get you out of here?
I mean, hopefully it's a good card. I can't wait to be there live with you. Maybe hit some top golf simulators right before it starts. Maybe even during that first fight. Who knows what we'll be doing then? But can't wait. Look forward to it. Good luck to you. Good luck to everybody listening. Let's catch these bets.
Yes, sir. See you Saturday, my friend. Well, we did it, my friends. It's going down this Saturday night live in Atlanta, Georgia. I want to thank you all so much for all your support. Episode 600 of Half the Battle. This is amazing. Everyone that's been around since day one, unbelievable. Thank you so much. For the people that have caught on along the way, I appreciate y'all as well. And the more recent listeners and fans, man, I'm grateful for y'all as well. So every single person that's shown love and support, just know the feeling is mutual, and I got your back just like you got mine. So y'all can follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks. Subscribe to Half the Battle everywhere podcasts are found. Smash that like, hit that subscribe, leave me a comment, share. This is episode 600 of Half the Battle. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.